Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans. It's one of those weeks. It's gaming. It's game talk week. It's movie talk week. We're gonna hit it all. It's Dave Doc here, also known as D Doc on Rule the Galaxy podcast, and I'm here with Jakejames Lugo. I think this is maybe our sixth show together. I
I
think we're
don't
at
know.
six at this point. We're losing count at this point, which is kind of cool to me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
how are you
appreciate.
doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me again. Thank you for chatting it up with it comes to games and Star Wars and everything else. There's a lot to chat about now. Ever since the whole Summer Games Fest actually finished, there's been a lot of things happening all over the place.
Yeah, that's I've been following your I've been following your Twitter feed. Honestly, it's funny because I for like these game announcements and everything now, I'll just go to your feed rather than even trying to follow the summer. Like I'll see Summer Games Fest stuff and everything, but like
Yeah.
I'll be like, all right, what's Jakejames Lugo sharing on the feed? He's going to be updating on pretty much everything. So
I got you because I'm usually following a lot of this stuff as it happens, or I'm like right on around the time frame where things are like fresh for everybody.
yep.
Because like some people just they get the stuff late, because they're busy with other things. But don't worry, I'm here. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a lot of news. I mean, we had Star Wars Outlaws dropped, which I was
Yep.
just like,
Revealed finally for the first time. I didn't expect that to be the case because I was talking about it with someone prior to Summer Game Fest, and I kept saying like, "There's no way that Ubisoft is going to show this now." Like, I know they mentioned it earlier in the year that sometime later this year we'd see it, but I didn't think they're going to reveal it in the fashion that they did and the time that they did. Though we might get it towards the Game Awards because that seemed like a Game Awards announcement to me.
exactly. And one thing I was thinking as well is before we even start diving into what we've seen in this game and everything, because I mean, this is huge news. I wasn't ready for it at all. Um, I saw people like commenting, "Yay, an open world Star Wars game," and then, "Oh man, Ubisoft is making it." Like, never mind. Like, what do you know? Like, if people like any hate towards them, like any
This is
reasoning
a
why?
weird thing because number one, we've all known about this Ubisoft Star Wars game for a while because they told us they were making it. This was way like what, over a year and a half ago, maybe longer, give or
Yep.
take. I remember talking about it on social media and in other places about this. And I knew the team because they said it. It was Massive Entertainment. Massive Entertainment, for anybody that doesn't know, is the same group of people that did the Division games, the Division and the Division 2. So if you play their games, you got a good idea of what to kind of expect here. But with this being an open world Star Wars game, which by the way, they came out and said it was the first open world Star Wars game, and they kind of corrected themselves a little bit. It's the first Ubisoft open world Star Wars game, which makes sense. I had to look that up at one point. I got into a back and forth a little bit with Echo Base Network because we were talking about, on social media where was like he was saying like, oh, it's false, they're lying, it's not the first open world Star Wars game. And it's like, well, we got to define open world Star Wars game because a lot of people kept bringing up Knights of the Old Republic. People kept bringing up Star Wars Galaxies. People also brought up Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I understand. There's open world elements to those games. But when I looked it up and I went and did some research, those are not classified as open world games. They just have open world elements to them, which it gets really technical. It's really stretching stuff. Personally, for me, if I had it my way, I would still call them open world games because you could go to various different places at various times and really explore. But really, open world game really means that you could go anywhere at any time. So an example of this, the better examples and comparisons would be Elden Ring, would be Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, Red Dead Redemption, games along those lines that are more open worlds where they're built where it's like a giant sandbox in a way, but you have a variety of different places you could go to at almost any time. Like you're still guided in a sense, but you're not guided in a very strong sense where it's just one narrative. You're able to go into multiple spots and even not even follow the main quest, on your own time and just really explore. That's what this game is going to be, Star Wars Outlaws. So I kind of, again, back and forth with them a little bit, and a lot of people seem to be, all over the place with it. But if we're really defining like what an open world game is, that's what Star Wars Outlaws would be. That would make it the first Star Wars game that's built to be an open world game like this with intention, like that. The other thing
Yeah.
too, Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, like, so because again, there's a lot to get in with this.
Yeah, no, like, as you're saying that, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I feel like Jedi Survivor is technically like open world, but then as you were talking, like, it does make sense. It's like I start off Grand Theft Auto and I could technically go one end of the map to the other without even doing a single mission right off the rip
Exactly.
from the game. I could just
Mhm.
get in a
That's open
car
world. Grand
and
Theft Auto
start
is
doing whatever
made
you
like
want.
that. Grand Theft Auto is made like that. That's an open world game. And granted, there's still areas of progression where you can't go to like the second island in Vice City or something until you pass like a certain mission, but you
Mhm.
still have like this sense of open freedom for it. You know, No Man's Sky is another example of that, which again, it's got open world elements, even though it's more procedurally generated and it's got other things going on with it. But the other thing too I want to touch on, and I'm pretty sure you saw this as well, was this idea that there was a backlash for this game. And I thought that was stupid because I looked around and there were people talking, stirring the pot on social media as normal with anything involving games, involving Star Wars, involving entertainment and such. But then I saw all these articles start popping up, like the one happening this morning with Kotaku about how the Star Wars community was having a massive backlash and that they were rejecting this game because of the female protagonist or because it's Ubisoft. And I'm like, what is it with you guys making mountains out of molehills? Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's like you could probably see like 3 comments like that were, probably idiot comments from someone who probably doesn't even mean it. They're probably just like, "I'm just gonna say this just to rile people up."
Yeah, they're just stirring the pot. Like, and the thing is that you, and I even made a whole big long Twitter post about this. Everybody who's watching this now or listen to this later, you could go see it on my Twitter. It's still there, where I made this whole post about, look, this Kotaku article, which really, like, they're trying to make the point that we could use more female protagonists in Star Wars and in games in general, which is fine. That's one conversation. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to make a generalized statement and put a generalization on Star Wars fans specifically here, saying that they just don't like female protagonists, that we've had so many male protagonists in all these other games when it really shouldn't matter how many of each one that we get, as long as the games are good. Like,
Mhm.
if you want to say, oh, we got like Cal Kestis, we got Kyle Katarn, we got Dash Rendar, and all these other games, and so that's already way too many. Now we need a female protagonist. Like, that's a stupid argument and a stupid stance to take. Like, as long as the games are good. And the other thing too, I don't know if you caught this because I said it in my Twitter thing. They actually got stuff wrong factually in their article. They said that the only female-led protagonist Star Wars games out there was Star Wars Battlefront 2 with Iden Versio, was Star Wars Jedi Starfighter, which is, I forgot her name at the moment, but it's the main character you play in there, and
Yes.
also Star Wars Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, which you play as Mara Jade in that expansion. They said those are the only three. You want to know what they forgot? And they're kind of like stupid because it feels like someone just did a Google search or just heard something from a friend and didn't actually play this game. Star Wars Lethal Alliance, that was on the PSP. That's a female-led Star Wars game, which, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know, that's a game that's about the same story as Rogue One, prior to Rogue One actually being made. It's about how the Rebels got the Death Star plans before Episode 4, which also happens to coincide with Jedi Knight, which was Kyle Katarn at the same time. But you just play as this Twilight female that's doing another mission alongside Kyle Katarn while he's off doing his own thing. You know, that's another game that they just completely forgot. They said there was no other ones. It's like, if you're going to be making this argument, if you're going to be making these points, you got to do your research, because that's a quick Google search. Like, it's
Yeah.
out there. Star Wars fans, by the way, had no problem with that game, even though the game wasn't all that great design wise and quality wise. It was on the PSP. It was kind of meh for what it was at the time. But Star Wars fans weren't backlashing because of a female protagonist. They weren't doing the same thing with Iden Versio back in Star Wars Battlefront 2 in 2017. And the same thing also for Mara Jade. I mean, how many people have wanted Mara Jade to make a comeback in canon for so long? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
these stupid arguments that I felt like have no real weight to them, that are
Yeah.
being thrown out there and just generalizing people.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that because honestly, like in my opinion, Star Wars has had a history of having strong female roles from day one. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Princess Leia, you could go to the prequels, and you have Padme, and I just feel like Star Wars has always had they've there's balance in the Force. I feel like Star Wars has always been pretty balanced as far as everything goes, and yeah, it's like you know what it is it's like
Mhm.
even like similar to Hogwarts Legacy, it's like controversy puts your game's name in the headlines, and it's like
You know something?
let's create a fake controversy and try to get people talking about this, like,
Well, I
which
don't
is
think that was
annoying.
the case with Hogwarts Legacy. Like, I don't think
Well,
they were
that's
asking
true.
for that.
That's
They
true.
weren't really asking for that. The problem with that, and even with this, is that the outlets that are writing these editorials and publishing them, they're the ones fishing for that. The whole reason why that Kotaku article exists is literally just a fish for clicks, because the statements that they do make from there, they not only don't even point to specific backlash that was on social media that they're trying to cite. I even had a response. We were talking before we started recording where someone that, saw my tweets about this article was saying like, oh, you're wrong. It's a quick search and you could see all this stuff. It was like, well, that's not my job to make that. That should be the article's job to point to the stuff that's their supporting info. If they're going to make such a statement like that, if there's such a backlash, you should be able to easily find all that and cite examples, right? Because I'll tell you right now, unlike them, I would argue, okay, I know this is a very conceited argument. Unlike that writer and a lot of the people over there that are pushing that article, I can say firsthand, like I've immersed myself in the Star Wars community where I could go talk to people. I mean, I'm even on this podcast right now, talking to you, talking to other Star Wars fans that will listen, and the times that I've been on this show, and even in other places on social media, I've gone to watch parties. I've gone on, different forums and gone onto different Discord servers and listening and reading what some of the Star Wars fans are saying. And to be honest with you, a lot of them are not backlashing about this. They're not mad about it. There's some that are indifferent. I think there's reasons to be indifferent about this game that are valid, as much as people might not want to hear that, with Ubisoft being the developer and the publisher, massive entertainment, the fact that it's an open world Star Wars game that also is taking place within the original trilogy timeline, which should be awesome. But for some people, it feels like they're kind of fishing for nostalgia. I can understand that. Like some of the arguments are stronger than others, but really in reality, the majority of fans and the majority of people that watch those showcases, both the Ubisoft and the Xbox showcase when they first showed it, were like, yo, this seems really interesting, because this game is doing things like we'll get into specifically that a lot of Star Wars fans have asked for a very long time. And it's like, I don't see why you're going to focus on such a small subset of people on social media saying that they speak for these volumes of other people that are like, not feeling that. Like, that's so silly to me. It's so dumb.
Yeah. And like, I will say, when I heard the concept of open world Star Wars, and this is not me really, I didn't even think twice about the main character of the game. I was just like, okay, I mean, I don't have any problem with female Star Wars characters. I mean, Jyn Erso is one of my favorite. Jyn Erso is one of my favorite Star Wars characters randomly. Like she's like, I'm just a big fan of her. But I did think that this game was going to just be like a create your player from the start. Like that was,
I don't know where people got that from. That's a funny thing, because again, I followed this game up until its announcement now. Since they first revealed they were working on a game, they never once said anything like that. Like, I think people in various different pockets and groups assume that, because of maybe they thought because of the Division, because the Division, I think you get a level of customization in there, but they never once said anything like that. And I think it's a very straw man's argument to say that, oh, we wanted to see a created character type of Star Wars game for a while. But like, where was that same type of sentiment when we were getting Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order? I mean, this is a game about a character within the Star Wars universe. Yeah. And it's almost the exact same type of thing that Cal Kestis got with Fallen Order and Survivor. So there should be no problem there. I feel like a lot of the people that are making that argument and a lot of the stuff that, not you, but like other like social media and places on TikTok, they're saying that because they still want to stir the pot, because they just want to see like people's reactions and stuff. And it gives those other people that are making the other side of the bad arguments more ammunition just to keep things going, because it's just a dumb argument to my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I had that thought literally, like, I just had that thought without even reading anything. I was just like, oh, it'll probably just be like a created character and you run around. Like, I thought that before even reading anything about it. But then when I watched the first trailer, I was like, oh, nice, we're getting a story out of this. Like,
which is dope.
Yeah.
Original trilogy too, between Empire and Return of the Jedi, which is cool.
Yeah, I agree. And Neo Starling just commented and said, looking forward to checking out Star Wars Outlaws.
Hey, what up, Neo? I know Neo. We've done pop panels together before. Yeah, Star Wars Outlaws is going to be dope. I was intrigued and I was pleased with the so much that we got to see, because I didn't expect that much to be shown, let alone gameplay. I mean, if they announced a game and then they got gameplay to show us, like, I mean, what better showcase can you really ask for a game? Like, I was even watching Angry Joe, like his reaction to the showcase, and he was like, "Oh, look at this! We got gameplay. Like, this is interesting." Like, if you could make that guy happy, over something that he's just like angry all the time, I think you're doing pretty good so far.
Yeah, credit to the folks over there at Ubisoft too for not leaking at like any of these gameplay. you know better than everyone. Everything people leak, people spoil things constantly anymore.
Yeah, it's
And
funny enough, it did not leak, which is cool. Like, which is
yeah,
very, very cool.
good for them on that. So we were talking earlier about bringing up some of the gameplay on this game.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you guys are listening to podcasts, we're going to be talking about what we're seeing in it, but you should also check out the YouTube because we're going to be bringing this stuff up on YouTube, and it just makes it a better experience for the podcast. I'm going to let this ad play out before I bring it up on the screen.
Yeah. Like those ads, they still have everybody just still watching stuff when what is it? Even though they're like, subscribing and stuff, or like YouTube Red or whatever. Yeah, I think it's like YouTube Red or anything like that, or premium. Like they can still see it without the ad.
Yeah. Honestly, YouTube Premium is something that I think I'm going to get.
I have it. It's a godsend. Like you don't realize how much it's actually helpful until you don't have it anymore, which is funny. Like,
yeah, I'm sick of watching commercials all the time, and honestly, I've realized now that like 75% of my TV watching is on YouTube because it's so geared towards what I want to see and learn about. You know,
I feel you.
Let's get this gameplay up here.
Now, question: when you watched the gameplay and stuff, did you see the announcement and the gameplay and the commentary, or you just saw like one specific thing?
I watched the cinematic announcement, and I watched probably a couple minutes of the gameplay, and then I was just like, you know what? I'll just save this for the podcast and just react to it as we're
because I saw everything. Because right after that gameplay showcase at Ubisoft Forward, they did a developer commentary that actually talking over the gameplay, and there was even more details in there.
That's why this may be that.
No, that's not it. That's a reaction to it.
Oh, this is a reaction.
The new open world gameplay walkthrough, I think it is. It depends on where you go, because I know you could go to Ubisoft that has it specifically. There you go. That's the world premiere trail. That's the CG one. I don't think that's not the gameplay one. But
what am I doing? I'm dropping the ball.
The other one that they had there was the gameplay one. Because there's like 3 different videos. Because one of them has the developer commentary where they're literally like stopping and saying like what's what, where they could reveal. Like they were talking about going to different planets. They were talking about Kay and Nyx's story stuff, or at least what's related to it. They talked about other gameplay elements like the blaster, like different blaster elements you could get, some of the stuff that you could be using in the open world or finding. Yeah, this is the gameplay walkthrough. This is it. I don't know if this is the one with the commentary, but this shows the gameplay, and if it's the walkthrough, they'll have the devs talking.
All right, so cool. Yeah, that's like this is. I don't know if you remember the game from PS2 era called
Beyond Good and Evil.
Oh no, it was well, I mean, you could go back to Commandos, for it, where like in this scene coming up here, like this is where I was watching. Do you know the name of her little creature that she has with her?
Her little creature is Nyx. He's I think it's pronounced a Morgul is his species. That he's from another planet and stuff. He's like a rare, like little furry species, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, like I saw in how she can kind of like guide him around.
Yeah.
And then we got,
by the way, she's fighting the Pikes. This is the Pike Syndicate that she's doing a job against.
Which is giving me Book of Boba Fett vibes, you know?
Well, it's the same race, same group, but keep in mind they were around for a while, so at least it makes sense for them to be in the underworld. This is what you were just talking about when Nyx actually is used as a gameplay element, that he could actually do stuff, to help her out.
Which that looks smooth as hell. Like,
yeah. It reminds me of Rainbow Six or Ghost Recon, where you could actually order your groups, or even like you mentioned, Republic Commando. Same idea with like the little holographic like little thing first that pops up. Same idea.
The first game I played like that was a war game on PS2. I want to say it was called like I don't think it was Band of Brothers, but it was something Brotherhood or something like that.
Oh my god, I got my visioning the box art that you have. It's like a bunch of soldiers on there. It's got red on the cover a little bit.
Yeah.
Something like that. Now here, this one's cool because this is when the stealth, when she gets found out, boom, she just shoots first.
That is awesome. Gun smoked.
Yeah, pretty much. So this is where we start to see like actually like Gambit. This is what I was talking about with the different blasters. She has focus. That's for shielded enemies, I'm guessing. Because different enemies are going to need different blasters and stuff.
Yeah, and that's also an interesting element too. Is is this game being a non-Jedi, protagonist too, because you're going to be fighting guys without a lightsaber, which is like kind of fun to me. It doesn't always need to be a lightsaber and everything,
Now, if they were smart though, if they have DLC for this game, which I'm pretty sure they will, they'll give you like an ability to like maybe like pick up and use a lightsaber, but like use a lightsaber not as a Jedi, but as someone like a random person. Kind of because remember, like in episode 5, Han Solo picks up a lightsaber and saves Luke, with the Tauntaun. But you could still swing a lightsaber if you're not a Jedi. So imagine something like that, maybe using it as like a viral blade or something.
Now,
this is when she's going
just run out of ammo on that weapon.
Well, that was a weapon she picked up.
She picked up off the ground.
Thing that she picked up. Because remember, she picked up a weapon that Nyx gave her, which is a blaster from the pikes.
Okay, so it's not like you're just going to be using a primary weapon.
No, like you got weapons. Like they were clear about that, like, which is good. You could expect that because remember, like she's going up against the underworld or these different gangs and different organizations. So they're going to have various weapons that they probably stole from the Empire, if not the Rebellion too. Keep in mind, because this is episode 5 and 6.
Yeah, that's wild.
So this is when she's going into the open world now, or at least that they're moving into the open world outside of that structure. What's cool here, and this makes sense for an open world game, is that she gets on a speeder and they get on swoop bikes, from my understanding. That's what people were saying, like the ones that are going to pursue her here. This is when they're just like driving out in the open world now. Kind of reminds me a little bit of something from like Red Dead or from Horizon, where there's a lot of space to drive these things.
Absolutely.
Hey, look at this. This is dope.
I know. I'm like, see, this like I watched the first couple minutes. I haven't seen, oh man.
Now this is an ability. This is an ability. They said that you will get other abilities like this to do stuff while you're driving and such.
Oof.
That was a Deadeye thing, which is cool. Very, very cool. Now keep in mind, this is all real time where they're in game and she just drove away like that. And now she's going to I think it's Juntai's Hope, or Juntai's Hope or whatnot in this planet, which is Toshanda. This is a cantina. It kind of reminds me of the cantina area from Jedi Survivor on that planet.
Dude, this map looks gorgeous, honestly. I can't believe they've kept this hidden for a while. I mean, like we knew they were working on this, but like seriously, props to them for not leaking this footage.
Yeah, look at that. You're driving in.
That reveal. Dude, that's wild.
Now. Juntai's Hope. Yeah, that's what it's called. The planet that you're on in this demo is Toshara, but you're going to get to go to other planets, which I'm guessing, I kept saying to people in that cinematic trailer reveal, I was calling this original planet, I was calling Tatooine, I was calling Bespin, I was calling Naboo, and I thought also Coruscant. So at least that's what's on my mind, the places we might go to, but they didn't confirm what the other planets were. And this is her buddy, ND5. That's her buddy. That's like her partner. He's a commando droid from the Clone Wars.
Yes, dude. Those commando droids, I love playing as them in Battlefront, man. They're like one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, they're strong. And they're vicious in Jedi Survivor, too, when you fight them.
Oh, my God.
But this one, ND5, he's another bounty hunter. He's like a smuggler or whatnot that's working with her. And now, here's the other thing, too, what they got into with this cutscene, which you'll see it eventually. This actually has different options for dialogue that you have. Now, it doesn't change the outcome too badly, like severely, but it does give different outcomes. Like you might either get less money, but you'll stay hidden, or you'll get more money and you might get wanted. Because remember, this is an Imperial officer that her client is dealing with here. So you could tell she's got the Imperial like little governor, little medals and stuff.
Yeah,
but it'll pop up now. You'll notice it after the dialogue. Because remember, this is the criminal underworld, and apparently, according to the devs, what they said in the commentary, this place is all run by not only the Empire, but it's all the syndicates that are within there that they're using, to keep things, in line. There's a lot of corruption going on.
Dude, why do game developers write better stories than the stories on Disney Plus now? I'm telling you, dude.
I don't know. A lot of people are judging this like a lot of the nonsense that we heard that we were talking about before was based off of something like this scene, because there's 3 different female characters in it. It's like, I don't think a lot of people were complaining about that. A select group of people were just making nonsense, because look at all this stuff. Here you go. There goes the option. Bribe or not bribe. See? Now that choice, okay, is going to have a direct result right after this cutscene, for what we're seeing and such, which I'm guessing we're going to be able to work with that client again multiple times. in the game.
Maybe.
And also, there's a thing with your reputation with the different syndicates. Because after the mission, when she was driving back into town, it said Pike Syndicate reputation went down. That pops up. And now she got the credits, but watch this. After she leaves and she got all the money that she was promised, now the Empire, that Imperial officer, got her on the wanted list. So now she's wanted. So now, if you run into the Empire, they're going to come looking for you and they're going to cause problems. Look at that. They even got a Lambda shuttle up there.
The Empire?
Escape the Empire. See? Now you're going. This is her ship now. It's called the Trailblazer. This is her official ship.
That's a big boy.
Well, yeah, it's a freighter that it's not made to be like as fast as like an X-wing or something, but it's got speed to it from what we're gonna see here, which is cool, which is in the trailer. I know it's a little bit spoilers walking through the trailer for everybody. Like this has been out for a minute.
Yeah.
But this is they even said in the developer commentary the exact model number it was, and I can't remember it, but it's in the commentary. But look at this seamless transition from planet to space, going straight into space. We wanted this since Battlefront 3 was canceled. Real talk.
Seriously.
This is all seamless.
Dude, this game is just gonna be like hours that
now she's in space, right? Look at that. And you could control your freighter. You're in orbit of Toshara. You could control your ship. So now she's got problems. She got space combat. Like Star Wars fans love stuff like this.
Yes. This is Star Wars.
This is what we want. Look at that. She's controlling her ship in space. By the way, they're playing on a Xbox controller too. Funny enough, because you can see the inputs there on the bottom, the different abilities and stuff.
True.
Because keep in mind, this was the Microsoft conference they revealed this. So imagine PlayStation inputs in there. That'd be hilarious. But yeah, so she's outrunning the Empire here, right? After this, she's going to jump to hyperspace right now. It's gonna happen this second. She's going to a planet called Akiva. See, you got to wait a minute for the hyperdrive. She got hit. Now she's got to wait for the hyperdrive to calibrate, and now goes right into light speed.
Boom.
Which all of this, for hardcore Star Wars fans, this is awesome. Because look at all that stuff that I just described, like within the couple minutes. You got ground to planet to space seamlessly. You got speeder, like different vehicles you can control on the planet. You got different structures you can walk around in the open world. You got multiple planets, and you got space travel and space combat. Like there's a lot going on here on top of this story, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, no, I think it's intriguing, man. I mean, I'm not going to say it's different, but it's also it's a mix of something new and something that we love, which I think is great and what Star Wars fans want.
Funny enough, the girl that's playing Kay here, the actress, I can't remember her name right now, but she did a whole little behind the scenes commentary thing after all this went out, which seems nice. Like she seems like she's really passionate about it. She was talking about the character, saying that she's not perfect, but she's a smuggler. She's trying to survive. And it's where, look at that. That looks like Tatooine to me. That looks like Tatooine. And then watch this. Watch this thing that pops up. So we're going to get boss fights, right? Imagine this. And that to me, that looks like Naboo, or this looks like something similar to Naboo. This looks like Coruscant.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of places we're going to go to. Or that looks like Coruscant too. And that looks like on some sort of Star Destroyer or some Imperial structure. Yeah. Like, look at that. 2024, man.
Bang.
Now, let's be real. I don't think we're getting this early 2024. I don't think we're getting it around that time. I would say summer, if not the end of the year of 2024. As a safe bet. Because I bet you towards the end of this year at the Game Awards, we see this game again.
Yeah. I think it looks excellent, honestly. I'm pretty blown away by that gameplay trailer. I mean, the cinematic trailer got me excited, but that gameplay looks great, man.
Yeah, that looks good. Like overall, do you think like what they're trying to do? Do you think like it's interesting enough that as a Star Wars fan, even if you weren't a big Star Wars fan, would you pick this up?
Absolutely. Honestly, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking my friends who are fringe Star Wars fans will probably play this too, actually.
Yeah.
Like guys who aren't even that into it, honestly, like might not play Battlefront, but like guys who are fans of like Red Dead Redemption, as you were saying, or like Grand Theft Auto type open world games, I could see them playing this game, honestly, too. So
now
like,
the other thing too, with that, right? Based on what you just saw, are you disappointed by no customization for a custom character, no other type of protagonist or anything like that was brought up by people?
No. I didn't even think about that, honestly. No.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's my point. Like when I first saw it and I finally finished seeing everything like that, I was saying like, "Yo, this is a game that looks like it's going to do something interesting. Like it's going to be really good as far as the ambition that they have with what they want to do." Because I think like it's good to have an open world sandbox like place. And with the Star Wars galaxy, we have multiple planets. Like if you're telling me I could go run around Tatooine, no problem. I could go walk around. They didn't say it here, but imagine we get to go to Coruscant, we get to go to Naboo,
Yeah.
by the way, during original trilogy time frame, when all this stuff is going on, because they confirmed its original trilogy between episode 5 and 6, and they even show it in the trailer. Han Solo is in carbonite. They're in the cinematic trailer.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome to me. That's great.
I totally agree. I mean, that's what when I saw that carbonite, I was like, is that Han Solo? I'm like, are they gonna be showing us like
When I
his like
first thought, I thought it was
shots of his
someone just
journey
like a
there?
random person, but like no, they confirmed that's Han Solo.
Dude, that's wild.
Yeah,
I'm totally excited about it. And you know what, dude? I just recently went to the ICCC convention in Nashville, and it was the
nice. I
first
heard it was
ever
good.
convention. Yeah, it was great. First Star Wars, obviously there's other people there, but it was, it's a ton of Star Wars fans and everything. And it's like once you're like within the vibe of a convention and everything, you just start talking to people you don't even know because you're
Yeah.
all fans of the same thing. Everyone gets along. If you looked at like Star Wars according to Twitter at those conventions, it should technically be a battle royale. You know
Yeah,
what I
like
mean?
Twitter is not a representative representation of anything outside in the real world. Because even like at conventions down here for like, SuperCon or anything else like that, because we got a lot of conventions in South Florida, and it's like you would think it's like night and day. Like it's just, not just Twitter, because people go to Twitter because it's an easy target stuff, but social media in general, sometimes it's its own little bundle of bubbles. And it's not representative of like what happens outside,
Hmm.
because there's some people that I would see like controversies and all these other crazy pieces of news happen and talked about on Twitter. And then I'll meet people in real life and they just don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Like, or they don't care. It's like, what the hell that's got to do with anything? It's like with Ezra Miller with The Flash. Like a lot of people just still going to go see that movie and not know or care about what was going on leading up to the movie release. Like it's complicated, but that's what happens. That's how real life is outside of the digital space.
No, it's totally true. Yeah. I mean, I was seeing him on the red carpet recently. And people, I was reading the comment section and like people were like pretty outraged, but I'm just like, you've known this movie is coming out. Like, you saw the release date. It was
Yep.
happening. Like, the dude's the
What
main character in it.
What's weird about that though is that Warner Brothers said he wasn't going to do any press as far as like talking to the media, but he
Yeah.
was there. He was talking to some people or whatever. But the other thing I think is going to be more telling with that situation in particular is if they continue to work with him afterwards. Now it's been said by people with sources, including John Campia, that he's done or they're done. Ezra's done
Hmm.
at that point, and that the studio doesn't want to work with them ever again after everything that's happened because Ezra's too much of a liability. And I can understand that it's a business decision that I can understand that.
Hmm.
However, you listen to James Gunn or Andy Muschietti, which I feel like WB Discovery's got to get a better handling on their PR. Like I think that they really fumbled with the PR for the Flash, and I think that it also got treated a little bit unfairly recently because some of the big cameos that I saw, because I saw the movie a month ago, some of the big cameos that were in the movie got spoiled recently from the premiere. And on top of that, it's just had this really weird PR cycle with some of the stuff like Andy Muschietti was going on and spoiling certain things. I was like, what are you doing? Like, what this movie's not out yet. You want people to go see this movie. Like, come on. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And that's the problem too, is like if people hear those spoilers and stuff like that, they might just be like, I'll just wait for it to come out on HBO Max then at this point.
Yeah. Or
Whatever.
Max now.
Yeah,
Or
Max.
whatever. Whatever is gonna call it, or just not go see it. Like one of the big thing cameos that got spoiled recently within the last day or so, there was a bunch of people just wiling out. I'm like, how can you guys be so mad at this cameo? Especially one that just sounds so awesome. Again, I'm not gonna spoil it here, but like it's out there on social media.
Yeah.
The movie's coming out tomorrow, for most out there that are gonna see it. But still, it's like, why would people be mad about this? And why would people actively go spoil it for other people? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like it's all these other different things just like compounded on one another. And it's like, you know what? Just block out the noise. Just either go see the movie or don't. Just don't be that guy.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just recently, for the first time, major violation. I just recently, for the first time, watched the Batman '89 and the second one with
Oh,
Keaton
Batman
in it.
Returns.
Yeah, Batman Returns with the
Those
Penguin.
classics.
Dude, I here's the thing. I've seen bits and pieces of them growing up, and I always knew it, but it's like as an adult, I haven't sat down and been like, let me throw this on from start to finish.
Yeah.
And they are great. And Keaton is a great Batman. And knowing that he's in that makes me want to see it. I mean, also, like, when it comes to the Ezra stuff, too, what I was saying earlier, it's like, not that I don't condone any of the behavior he had. It's just like stuff with Hollywood. And when it comes to money, things don't surprise me. Like, there was no way that this movie wasn't going to release, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah, like
they had this done. They
everybody
invested
knew.
too much into it.
Everybody knew this movie was coming out, and they made it very clear that it wasn't going to be like a Batgirl situation. Because I think that this situation with Ezra and the Flash and everything else that went into it was so like the exception to the rule and not part of it. Was so like far removed with everything else. There's just so many things that happen within, and then you look at and compare it to other things that have happened in Hollywood recently between Jonathan Majors, what happened with Tener Puerta, all these different things like all over the place. I think that with the Flash specifically, I felt like things were so far along when stuff happened that it's like we're not just gonna dump this after putting so much money into it. And then keep in mind, you got Michael Keaton coming back as Batman for the first time in like many years. People are just gonna go the hell with Ezra Miller. Like we're just gonna, like me, I'm gonna go see this movie again tomorrow because of Batman '89 or Michael Keaton Batman being in this movie. And there are a lot of people out there like that just want to enjoy themselves. They just want to hang out and just enjoy whatever the movie is. And some people have said that. I wrote a whole review about this movie that's out there on Clownfish that I've talked about different elements with that as far as it being a film, if you remove yourself and stop thinking about the other stuff outside, you can enjoy what's here. Like it's pretty darn good. But again, I digress. Everybody has their own stances on it. I feel like a lot of people need to like focus on like, what exactly are we talking about? What exactly are we really debating or arguing? Are we arguing the merits of the movie to exist? Or are we just like trying to focus on Ezra Miller? Because that's what I feel like a lot of reviews. I don't know if you saw these with Rotten Tomatoes. They came out and a lot of like the stuff that was why they were scoring the movie low or lower than most other places because they wanted to talk about Ezra Miller's nonsense. And it's like, I don't think personally for me, and I think I've said it to you a few times on this show, like for me, if you're going to review something, review the content of whatever it is that you're reviewing, not review it based on other stuff outside of it. All that other stuff in the news with Ezra Miller, that's not in the movie. Like that's not what the movie's about. So that shouldn't be a fair assessment of the quality of the content in the movie.
No, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I just saw Across the Spiderverse and I was blown away
awesome.
by that movie, man.
The movie's amazing. Like I saw that in the Dolby Digital Theater at AMC and like it's really gorgeous. Like just visually, like all the colors and everything with that movie, especially if you've seen it in an IMAX screen, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, that was one like I knew it was going to be good, but I took my kids to see it too because like my son loved the first movie. And I just sat back, man, and I was like, I walked out of that theater blown away, honestly. Yeah. It's like I walked out of that theater where I was like, this is the first time I felt like this after watching a super movie hero for a pretty long time, actually, probably. Like, I don't know. It's just I like how, I won't get into like spoilers because people probably still haven't seen it, maybe. I can talk about some details though without spoiling the movie, but like, there's going to be a third movie and they leave you hanging.
That's been public for a long time, but like, it's like when you're going to have a good drink and when you finally have it, it's really good. Like that's how it feels to watch this movie. And it's great, because that's like a fun time you could have at the cinema, with all the different movies coming out. This is one of those movies where people go see and it's not like everybody's not complaining about it. It's Beyond the Spider-Verse. No, yeah, it's Beyond the Spider-Verse or it's Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse
all mixed up because they're all like there's Into the Spider-Verse.
Beyond is the third
one, and then
now,
Across is the second, and then Beyond is going to be the third. But Across the Spider-Verse has a lot of people talking about it, and there's always going to be those detractors and people that are caught up on the nonsense with this movie, especially about the Miguel O'Hara thing. I don't know if you saw this with Miles Morales and Miguel O'Hara. A lot of people were debating about it on TikTok and stuff, but outside of nonsense like that, the majority of people love this movie and are saying like a lot of great things about it. And a lot of the cool stuff involving music with this movie came out. Like the soundtrack of Across the Spider-Verse is awesome. Yeah. That final track in the credits is awesome. I got that on my iPod. So good.
That's like when we were sitting there, I heard that there was a post-credit scene and it got scrubbed apparently.
I don't believe that. The funny thing is I don't well, uh, Into the Spider-Verse had a post-credit scene, which was, Miguel O'Hara. Yeah, at this point, like, that's not a spoiler because the movie's been out for a while. But
Mhm.
like that was there. But I'm okay with this one not having it because it's part one in a larger story, which is fine. It's not a big deal. What I do like though is that we're not gonna have to wait a long time to get the second part to get the
Yeah.
conclusion for the trilogy.
Which is gonna be a banger. Like,
Yeah,
I
at
will be
this
seated,
point, if this
man.
movie does right now be Across the Spider-Verse doesn't win an Oscar for like animation or Academy Award or something for animation whatnot, you bet like that third one probably will, with as
Yeah.
big of an impact these movies have been having on people.
Seriously, and I had brought that up last podcast last week. The guys hadn't seen it yet, but I was saying, like in comparison to Star Wars, like we have a lot of Star Wars lore that exists. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
Spider-Man has a lot of lore that exists. To me, the guys who are making these movies understand what it means to be a Spider-Man fan, and they
Yeah,
give you a mix of all the old that people will love and the new. And
yeah.
they bundle it up in one big package to make this great thing. That's where I'm like,
You
they
you
get it.
know
You know what I mean?
the thing is to me, especially with the first one, and I think it's mostly ever since the first one came out, and with the Spider-Man Miles Morales game that's come out, there's been a lot of reverence for different aspects of Spider-Man as as a franchise, as a character in the lore. Miles Morales, obviously, these movies focus around him, and he's always been looked at as like the minority Spider-Man, the black or Afro Latino Spider-Man and stuff, and that's like been a label that's been put on him, and I understand why because that's where the genesis of that idea was really started from for that character because of Childish Gambino on Community. Yeah, I think it was Community where he was wearing a Spider-Man outfit. That's the inspiration for Miles Morales. So I get it, stuff. But I feel like there's been other things that have kind of like, been borrowed from that side of that culture into the lore of Spider-Man that's really made it interesting to watch because it's not downplaying the idea of Peter Parker. It's not downplaying the idea of like Spider-Man in its original form, where before Miles and stuff, it's really complementing it. And that's what I feel like, that's a good way for new characters to take shape and to become their own thing. That's a great way for diverse characters, characters that are POC or whatever else to really kind of come into their own and really be seen as like a heavyweight type of character, as well as also just building out the lore of that universe. Because
Absolutely.
the Spider-Verse movies and stuff, some of them are a little contradictory to some of the other things we've seen in other Spider-Man media, but it also especially in Across the Spider-Verse, you could see that it still has a reverence for all those other stories between the Tobey Maguire films, the Andrew Garfield films, the MCU, the animated stuff, the new animated stuff, the games. Like it's really showing like a lot of love for that.
Now, here's a question that I have because I'm looking back on it and like this might be like semi spoiler guys, but like
Mhm.
it really technically isn't. It's just cameo talk. I don't remember if there was a Tom Holland Spider-Man like shot in it. Like, was there
No,
anything?
no,
No.
the nod I think to Tom Holland Spider-Man was the cameo with well, this is not a spoiler because it's actually public right now that people have shared it. The Childish Gambino was a
Okay.
cameo as Prowler. That's the shut up because remember, he was that character in Tom Holland's Spider-Man films like that. I mean, there's a nod to every single one of the live action Spider-Man movies and stuff that's all over the place. Again, the other ones I won't spoil, but
Dude,
that
those
that I
guys, I
feel
was
like was the
cracking
nod
up,
to Tom
man.
Holland. Like the only thing that could have gone better than that is if you saw these actual Spider-Man in there. Like if they want to go big in the next film, they somehow got to find a way to get those actors to appear in that film. That would be amazing. You
Yeah.
want to talk about epic win?
Yeah. I mean, dude, as you guys can see behind me, I'm a Lego fan, and they even give homage to
Oh
Lego in
yeah,
it, dude. I was
that was
dying.
so that was so short but so cute. And then you like read up on the backstory behind that. It makes it so much better. It's so much funnier too because of the little sounds that he does. He's like, like
Oh
it's
my
great.
god. I was dying. I
Great.
was like, because dude, they hit that pretty early, and I'm just sitting there in my seat, just like, oh, we're going here. You guys don't have any limits where
Did you
you're
hear
gonna
that
go with
voice?
this.
Did you hear that voice at the beginning of it for J. Jonah Jameson?
Oh, yep,
Yep.
yep,
I was like, oh, okay. Like
yeah,
and then it just keeps rolling from there, which is it just gets so much fun.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like, I just left that movie thinking to myself, I'm like, man, this is what the movies is all about. This is why we go to the theater. Like I know
Mhm.
you're in the theater all the time. I think that's like I love your gaming content, but I also love to know like if a big movie's out, I know you're in the theater like
Yeah, I'm always
usually
reviewing
opening
it.
day.
I'm usually publishing reviews over on Clownfish TV nowadays where I get to write about it. And they've been open to me like doing a lot of reviews, for movies that people just don't go see. So I'm real thankful for that. But I think it's also just fun because it gives me a chance to flex my muscles as a critic, in a different way. Because I think I've told you and I've told a lot of other people, a lot of my inspiration for gaming criticism is derived from movie criticism, Siskel and Ebert. Those are the
Yep.
two original critics, and they were all about movies in the same way that they are about movies. I'm the same way about games, but it's good to go back to that source and really kind of like play with it. And I enjoy it because I get to see all these films. I've seen now this year alone, I've had to see like most of the big releases to come out, if not
Oh,
all of
you're
them.
in there, dude. You're in
Yeah,
there every time.
and
I
I'm
see
going
it.
back again soon. Like again, tomorrow I'm going to go see The Flash again. Even though I saw The Flash a month ago, I got invited to an early screening with AMC to go see that movie. But I'm going to go see that again. And I think sometime afterwards, I'm going to go see The Blackening this week as well. And then also, I think it's not next week, but the week after is Indiana Jones. Indiana
Yeah.
Jones comes out right on my birthday. So that's
Which
going
I
to be
think is
super.
red carpet premiering tonight, actually. Indiana
Is
Jones.
it? Okay. Because I know they did their thing at cons, and I think they've also done like other promotional stuff but it's like right around the corner. So it's a lot of big
Yeah,
movies.
I'm definitely excited for that. Quick shout out to Mackay Gamer here
Mackay
too.
Gamer, that's my boy, Mackay. What up?
What's going on?
Yeah.
Dude, I also have one thing on
Mhm.
our list for tonight
Yeah.
that I wanted to hit on as we're on the movie topic, and
Yeah,
it's
sure.
why do gaming companies not make video games for movies anymore? Because all I could think about when I'm watching Across the Spiderverse is I'm like, I wish we had one of those cartoon animation style video games where it's like, Sly Cooper style almost. I
Mhm.
feel like that would almost fit the animation style. It's like you've recently did a top 5 Star Wars game list, and episode 3 is on your top 5 list
Yeah,
as
for PlayStation 2
for
games, specifically
PS2.
for Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
for PS2. So like I just remember when I was a kid, it's like when Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out, I bought that Spider-Man game and I freaking loved that game. I like
Mhm.
it. I don't know if it was nostalgia or just a great game because I haven't played it in forever, but I just think that like they're missing I think they should still make games for some of these movies. I honestly would even go as far as to say I think it would be cool if they would go back and make new next gen graphics. Do Star Wars the original prequel trilogy in next gen graphics. People are going to buy that game. Like,
You want to know why that a lot of that stuff doesn't happen anymore? Because the marketing like machine for a lot of these movies has changed over the years. Back in the day, especially anytime before PlayStation 3, I would argue. Like PlayStation 3 was probably like the last gen that we really got, any sort of like movie-based games. Because we had games like Star Trek at one point, which was a story that took place after the movie, and
mhm.
all these other things. We would have like different movies or different games based on these different films. But the marketing machine has changed because we still get movie like games based on movies. The Avatar game, like Frontiers of Pandora, is a prime example of that. It's based on Avatar. You could argue Star Wars the same thing. We've had other stuff here and there. The problem is though, back in the day, there used to be movie games released to coincide with the release of the films. That's how we got Revenge of the Sith prior to the release of Revenge of the Sith in theaters. This is why we got Batman Begins. This is why we got all these other different types of games like Spider-Man, etc. Even Superman Returns with
Yeah.
DC, they had that as well around the release of the movie. But the marketing machine has changed where that is not only not viable anymore because it costs so much to make games now these days, a lot more than what it did back then, but also they don't need it to promote the movies. They have social media. They have other means to promote a lot of these projects. You could argue the same thing with, streaming series like on Netflix or Disney Plus, etc. But they have all these other means to get word out and to get hype out about their films rather than just putting in a lot more resources to making a game that might not sell that well and might get panned by critics. Because let's be real, a lot of movie-based games are not that great. Their level of quality is nowhere near sometimes, in comparison to a lot of other AAA games that come out. I mean, we have those gems like Spider-Man 2. I would say Spider-Man 2 is a better game than Spider-Man 1, the original game like that. But also there's just a level of quality with that game that just was like it was based on the movie, but it was doing other things. It wasn't solely just trying to be like a quick like drop as far as movie-based games. You could say the same thing about Batman Begins. You could say the same thing I would argue even about, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, instead of Revenge of the Sith, what about the Clone Wars? there was a Clone Wars game that I've reviewed that I've talked about, which wasn't all that great, but it was right before episode 2 came out. They did the same thing with episode 3, later on. But
And Lord of the Rings did that
and
too,
Lord of
actually.
the Rings, you could literally play those battles. That was like right before the movie release.
Yeah,
And
they people were pissed they spoiled Return of the King, right, with that, because they actually showed, like,
I
movie clips
know
and
that
everything.
popped up, but it's like you've read these books before. Like,
Yeah,
what
you
are you
knew what
even
was gonna happen.
complaining about? But the other thing too is I think that because also the development cycle for a lot of these games is it takes so long, especially back then, it still took long. They had to kind of like time it right with the release of the film. So that's one of the big reasons why, speaking of Lord of the Rings, you never got a Fellowship of the Ring game. It was actually
Yeah.
folded into the Two Towers because the game originally that was being done by that team at EA wasn't really done by the time that movie was coming out. So they just folded it over. So you got all these Fellowship of the Ring levels in the Two Towers. You're like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
what the hell? Which movie is this? Like, but I don't miss it as much as I like to miss it because I know that games are better off as far as the quality right now. But I also know that movies don't have to necessarily they never really kind of like rely too much on it. But it's like not part of like again the marketing machine. They could focus that on other stuff, maybe making some of that budget go towards the movie quality, or maybe going towards other means of promotion, events or whatever. So
Yeah,
it's a
no, that
lost
definitely
art
makes
form.
sense.
It's a kind of lost art form, like in the same way that we get like box art that's a lost art form in some cases. The movie-based game, I feel like it's long since passed. And to me personally, I say the PS3 was the last generation we had that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do I'm nostalgic for it just because, like, for me, I feel like it kind of cemented like my love for some of them even more just because I played those Spider-Mans, I played those Lord of the Rings games and stuff like that. And it was like a good way to double down on the content, but we also didn't have YouTube and Twitter and
We
places to
also
talk about it.
excused a lot of bad games because I reviewed both of those Lord of the Rings games, and they do not hold up as well as people remember them.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of bugs and glitches in those games. That's like
Yeah.
any other game, y'all would have eviscerated this, but because it's Lord of the Rings, because it's Aragorn, y'all gonna give it a pass.
Dude,
Excuse you.
I've recently replayed those and it's like, don't get me wrong, I still have the nostalgia for them, but
Yeah, I
there's
love Lord of
parts
the
of it
Rings,
where
but
I'm like,
nah,
oh my God, like
I'm sorry.
there's glitches and stuff. Like
The
there's maps
freaking
that are
difficulty
hard as
spikes.
hell.
I remember in specifically my Two Towers section of my review video of those two games, the difficulty spikes in that game, like depending on which character you play as, are so over the top at times. There's that level, that infamous level where you're like, defending that little keep, and like all the orcs that are exploding themselves are coming at you. That
Oh
is
my God.
hard, but it's hard because like
It's
certain sections of
wave
the game are
after
broken.
wave.
It's annoying, and like you just have to do it. You just have to roll with it. It's like, like,
If
what
I
the hell?
remember correctly, the way I finally would beat that would be to just sit there with Legolas and hold your arrow in and wait till you could lock before you could even see the players spawning towards you. They would spawn like in the distance of
Yeah,
the game,
and you'll
and
just
you could
lock
start
onto it.
ripping arrows before they were even there. Like, yeah,
Yeah, but you
it
can't do
was,
that as Aragorn. You definitely can't do that as Gimli.
yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
yeah, dude. Those games, man, they they owned my life when I was a kid. So now, outside of gaming, you've already touched on this a little bit on TikTok and Twitter. Is the director of the Star Wars Acolyte
Yeah.
hitting on
Yes, the showrunner. I don't know if she's the director or the
or
showrunner.
the showrunner?
Oh, something like
Yeah.
that.
It's, do you want to go into some of the points that she was making? I read that article, and honestly, I was reading the article and I was kind of trying to understand what she was like saying, because to me, it's almost like she was pretty much saying like George Lucas didn't create this, kind of like, I don't know
Well,
what
here's
she
the
was
thing.
getting at, like with it.
So a couple people saw this in a couple different places. A lot of people, myself included, first saw it when Star Wars Theory shared it. Okay, he shared a video that was sent around to him that was from 2019, which is just basically a cut of that interview that Leslie Headland was part of. If you go to the original interview, which I think is like 20 or 30 minutes long, something like that, she's sitting down for an interview and she's talking about the Acolyte. And the points that she was making, though they're not cut up together like that, it's still part of this larger interview. Some of the points that she is making is a little bit weird. And I kept saying, I even said it on TikTok, it's like, it's weird to me how Lucasfilm PR is just dropping the ball a lot. Like they're just really like not that great at keeping things like in the good graces with their fans, because a lot of the statements she was saying do not come off good. I understand she's trying to make a greater point about like, you know, being able to expand the lore of Star Wars beyond what George Lucas created, as far as like getting other ideas, other characters, other sections of it to really grow that universe. I get that. But like, how are you going to tell me that, you know, everybody's expecting someone with all the answers, like George Lucas is a bad, you know, expecting George Lucas to have some sort of like weight behind his opinions or his decisions and stuff. People waiting on that is a bad thing, because let's keep in mind the whole reason why we have this universe is because George Lucas made these movies. He wrote these scripts with his two hands. Like, he didn't
Yes.
direct all the movies, but like he did come up with the entire concept of Star Wars, not just the first three films. He also did the prequels. He directed those. As far as I know, yeah, he directed
Yeah, he
those
did. Yeah.
and wrote all those scripts. Like, he made this entire universe, all this lore. It's like trying to say that trying to get a word from Tolkien back in the day about Middle Earth is a bad thing, because like Tolkien doesn't have all the answers. The dude created the damn universe, for God's sakes. It's the same thing with George Lucas here. I find that with this interview, with a lot of other statements, not just from that show, but with other places too, there's this really weird attitude to like take a jab at George Lucas, specifically him, or specifically at the idea that fans want George Lucas's like input or his blessing or his you know, consolidation with Lucasfilm or whatever it might be. Like, people are just like uneasy or indifferent by a lot of the newer stuff that you're seeing from most of the Disney Plus stuff, you know, from the last couple of shows, from the last couple of seasons, from the last couple of movie projects, even with the sequel trilogy. And I feel like it's like these different people, not just Lucasfilm people, but specifically like Leslie Headland and a few of the other people behind the scenes of these films that are making these things, are like just jabbing at them. They're like trying to be antagonistic a little bit to the audience, or trying to put their own stamp on Star Wars in a way that doesn't really have the same type of reverence that fans are looking for. Like, there's a very big difference. Perfect example, right? And I know a lot of people don't like people saying this. There's a very big difference between the reverence that you get from like Dave Filoni, as much as some people might have a problem with him for whatever reason. There's a big difference between that reverence you see in the Clone Wars or in Rebels or in the Bad Batch or whatever else, what we're probably going to see in Ahsoka as well, and compare that to what we got in Obi-Wan Kenobi and what we're probably going to get with the Acolyte, from the looks of it, from the sounds of it. Because at its heart, the Acolyte sounds like a cool concept, a cool idea. But like, when you see these statements from Leslie Headland, when you see the statements from the actors at Star Wars Celebration, and the way that they're talking and what they're trying to talk about, as opposed to what they're trying to sell us in the projects, there's like this real big disconnect that I don't think people are really feeling right now. They're not really liking at all, because it feels like they just want to do stuff to get people mad, to get attention for their projects. It feels very disingenuous and very inauthentic. And again, it's coming from this weird place that people just don't like. They don't understand like why it's there, why it's lingering like that. And keep in mind too, we've talked about this a few times on this show, that like, I don't like the idea of Lucasfilm being so combative with their audience. Like, they're just the way that some of those people insult fans or make insinuations in interviews. Like, it's bad enough that we got to deal with certain things that have been set out in certain interviews by like Kathleen Kennedy or anybody else. But like, that type of stuff, I feel like is really damaging the relationship that fans have with Lucasfilm and fans have with Star Wars. Because at some point, that's not going to last forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what I was saying with the cons. It's like, to me, Star Wars PR lives online, and that's a bad play. Like, you know, you can meet very good people at a Star Wars convention who are all Star Wars fans, and guess what? Like, I might not like sequel trilogy, you might like it, but we can sit face to face and have a conversation and really get along and be cool with each other.
Yeah.
You know, like we can be totally fine. But it's like, I feel like they're lost in the sauce. I mean, it goes back to Star Wars Twitter too. I mean, because Star Wars
keep
Twitter
in mind
account
too,
just,
it's not just like Star Wars community and the react, because I find Star Wars, not just Star Wars Twitter, but the Star Wars community on social media tends to be very reactionary on both, not only the projects like the live action projects or the cartoons, but also the games. A lot of the stuff that came out, what we were talking about earlier with the articles about Star Wars Outlaws, felt like it was being reactionary to the blanket statements that were being made about Star Wars fans and about gamers in general, but really Star Wars fans. And with Star Wars Twitter, and even, you have to say this too, which is sad to say, like a lot of the content creators that I'm seeing within that bubble of Star Wars Twitter really add fuel and gasoline to that fire. Like, it's just to the point where it's like, you guys sometimes are talking out of your butt. Like, you're just like talking completely in bad faith and making statements or going along with things when you really shouldn't be saying that. Well, because the audience could see right through you. It's like, You're going to come out and say that Star Wars fans have a problem with female protagonists or have a problem with females in the universe when they literally the first thing of this franchise has one of the strongest female characters and protagonists in modern cinema. It's like
Yeah.
people have been rolling with that since 1977. You really think that Star Wars fans got a problem with female characters or female protagonists? It's like, come on, that's such a stupid statement. But you see this stuff that's like passed around constantly, and again is used as a bullet point to blanket statement all these people. And I think people are just tired of that. People are just getting real tired of it, and they're seeing right through, and they're like they're starting to latch back at them. Again, it's very reactionary with all this stuff. I feel like a lot of this problem wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the fact that like a lot of people just continue to like fuel it to be a thing when it shouldn't really be a thing. Like people want to see the Acolyte. We're there. Most Star Wars fans, especially diehard Star Wars fans, we're there for anything that's Star Wars related. But like you're not gonna like think that we're stupid. You're not gonna think that we're just blindly just gonna support something for the sake of it just being Star Wars. No, we expect some quality. We expect some, some reverence for the universe we spent so many years like engaging with or supporting. And I feel like there needs to be a conversation either in Lucasfilm or with some of the people behind these projects to really kind of make that clear. I think that some people over there understand it. Jon Favreau understands it. Dave Filoni understands it. I feel like some of the actors. Oh my god, I can't remember his name right now. He plays oh my god, he's in the Book of Boba Fett. He was Dylan from Predator. Oh my god, I can't remember his name. The actor. Oh my god, he played Apollo Creed. Oh my Jesus.
Oh man,
I'm blanking out. You know what I'm talking about though, right? Like he understands it. Mark Hamill understands it. Like the idea of like, look, people have a real reverence for this universe and really care about it. So you shouldn't treat them like such an opponent when it comes to putting these stuffs out, because the audience is there to support you. You don't need to get so angry and so combative with them when they reject it or they feel indifferent about it. And I just don't see that from some of these people. I don't see it from Leslie Helen. I feel like Leslie Helen's got her mind on other stuff rather than just like the benefit of like making a Star Wars project. The same thing with some of those other people over there. Ryan Johnson is another perfect example. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but this is the same guy that was walking around with a thing that said your Snoke theory sucks. It's like, who in their right mind at a company would think that's okay? Anybody else would have gotten fired or let go.
Yeah,
it's
if
like,
I'm Bob Iger, I'm like calling Kathleen Kennedy and being like,
what are you guys doing? Like the thing is, my point is like, you don't want to be so nasty and like hostile towards your audience and then get mad when they're hostile back, because those are the ones that support you. And again, I'm rambling on, but it feels like that's just something that just isn't clear enough at Lucasfilm.
No, and I mean that's what I was alluding to with the Across the Spiderverse movies is I'm like, these guys get their fan base. You can create something new and give love to the old at the same time. You don't need to say, the old stuff is dead. We don't care about any of that.
Stupid statement. That was such a stupid. Looking in hindsight now after the sequel trilogy, that was such a stupid thing for someone to allow Ryan Johnson to put in that movie. Because I think it was Ryan Johnson wrote The Last Jedi, right? He wrote and directed it. I'm pretty sure. Because I remember him saying that at one point. My point is like, that is such a stupid thing to say. Let alone the way that the whole PR machine with that was terrible.
The past is dead, I think was the line.
Let the past die. Let the past die. That's what he said. Kill it if you have to. And that's such a stupid statement. I understand what the aim was, but the execution and the reasoning behind it, I think, was so dumb. Did that make sense?
I mean, I don't know. I've been on Roll of the Galaxy now for 2 years, and I feel like it's like every couple months there's just some kind of PR flub when it comes to Star Wars where I'm just like, what are you doing? There's a lot of good stuff. Like I'm hyped on Outlaws. I think it's great. I think the way that folded out, I don't know how much Lucasfilm has to do with that or even Disney.
Lucasfilm Games specifically. It's Lucasfilm's games that's working together with Massive and Ubisoft.
Yeah. So like credit to them for I think what they just did was great on that release. I mean, that's the excitement that I'm looking for. And the creator of this game isn't doing an interview saying that, I know Star Wars better than George Lucas, essentially. I mean, I know that's not what she was saying, but like,
well, it was multiple people. Like you could go listen to the interviews now. There. I think there's one on IGN. There's a couple floating around with Ubisoft where they actually did it themselves, talking to the people. But like the actress, I forgot her name. I apologize, but like the actress that plays Kay right now in this game. You can hear her talking about this character where she's like, look, she's flawed. She's in this galaxy far, far away where she's trying to survive. She's trying to be a smuggler because there's all these syndicates and stuff. She's going to get the job done. She's going to hide her emotions and stuff, but she's vulnerable, but she's going to get the job done. She's there. She's going to do things and stuff. There's a real charm in being like honest and open about that rather than trying to put on this facade where it's like your character's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And like you're just like invincible. Like there's again, look at that interview when you get a chance tonight and look at the interview of what they did with some of the characters from the Acolyte or from some of the characters when they were talking about Rey from the sequel trilogy or any of those characters for that matter. You know, it is a very big difference. And I think Star Wars fans could see that, or at least a good chunk of them can see that. And they're going to get like, okay, this seems interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, she's got a great opportunity in front of herself too, because I mean, look at what Cameron Monaghan has done with Cal Kestis. Like he's become an iconic Star Wars character through video games, and video games are
He's getting to it.
Yeah,
he's getting to it.
Yeah, they've become video games are just the amount of money behind them and the amount of money they make. They're right up there with movies. You know what I mean? It's like they're hand in hand now as far as fandom and money goes. So I recently did Bob Iger's book just to kind of try to get a peek inside of his head as to like who he is and how he thinks. And I really found it very interesting. But I recently saw him like talking about the Mario movie and how he's like, we're pretty encouraged by seeing that, like, you know, shout out to those guys over there. And it's like, well, they made a movie that was true to fans and pretty much just gave them like not that it's like, oh, let's just give you full on fan service. It's like, just understand the fan base that you're dealing with, you know,
well,
like
I feel like that movie got treated unfairly by people in the media because look, I understand that the story wasn't the best, but I was in that audience with that in that theater with that audience and like the reactions that I saw for most of the story, it was a light story, but it has a bunch of fan service in it that goes cross generational. It was done in a way where it's like it appealed to a lot of different things while trying to be just a fun family movie. And I feel like people were trying to look for things in it that really it wasn't trying to do, that it wasn't really trying to like get into and stuff. And I thought that was silly because that movie shows that like video game movies can work and they could be big. This is why like the story came out recently that Nintendo is talking with Universal seriously about doing The Legend of Zelda next. And that's going to be a thing with the theme park at Universal. That's totally going to be a thing. And they're inking a big deal. That thing is going to be huge when it comes out. And then when the Mario sequel comes out, that's even going to be more huge.
Yeah, it's
that's a given.
I want to see them make that bank on it, man. I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. I had my son who's 6 years old next to me 32 years old, and my father-in-law who's in his 50s. And all of us had something with Mario that we could laugh at and be like, I remember that.
That's what Nintendo and Universal and Illumination want. They want all those generations in the theater, like talking with each other, sharing memories, enjoying the film, and paying for a ticket. Every single one of them. That's exactly why that movie did so well.
Yep. No, I agree. And I mean, I'm the guy. I know you support going to the movies. I love going to the movies. I'll buy tickets. I'll go to the movies. I love that experience because it's an experience that I don't think can. It needs to stay alive because that's when you experience a movie in the theater, in those seats, the popcorn, everything. It's just there's something special about it.
It's a very, very unique experience. And I grew up, and I think I told you, I grew up watching movies. My first movie, funny enough, because we mentioned Batman Returns. Batman Returns was the first movie I saw in theaters. Like actually going to a movie theater and everything, and going through that whole experience, getting concession stand popcorn, soda, getting a poster from the actual movie and stuff. There's a whole like ritual / like experience that goes with that. And I love doing that now, even as an adult. I know that it gets expensive for movie theaters. Like that's just the economics of today. Like it's just expensive to do things like that. And it sucks to deal with that aspect. But if you're able to do so and if you have the means to do so and do it right, like not cheaping out on it, not like cut corners, but do it right. Like do what you want to do. It's a really fun, amazing time out. I feel like it's good, especially if you're going for a movie that you want to see. It's not every movie's like that because I've gone to movies that like I wasn't hyped up about like I am with a Marvel movie or Star Wars or something like that. But it's still a fun experience nonetheless. It's still something that I think like people could really enjoy, even as you get much older.
Yeah. Like it goes hand in hand. Like, number one, you could go by, even if you went by yourself. Like, I know you could go to a movie by yourself, and that could be a personal, enjoyable experience, or you go with like your kids or whatever, and that can be like, those can create core memories sometimes, rather than maybe watching the movie at home. Like,
Well, I
there's a
like watching movies when like not so much a midnight release nowadays because I go more to the first showings in the afternoon. But going to a movie where you have a lot of people that are hyped up with this, that makes the movie experience as well. A lot of people don't like that, and I understand it. It's like not for everybody, but like imagine going to see Endgame and you have everybody else there with you. I had that. I saw this movie like 8 times in theaters, like that with a whole bunch of people just wiling out at some of the big movie like moments, even though that's a long movie. The point is that a lot of those bigger special moments and a lot of those bigger reactions that sticks with you like long after you leave the theater. I still remember, I think I talked about it on this show. I can't remember when I went to go see episode 2 of Attack of the Clones, opening day with my family, watching that movie in the theater. When Yoda pulls out his lightsaber, that is the most hype moment I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie at the theater, straight up. And the only one that came close to it was the next movie, was at Revenge of the Sith, when Palpatine says, "My little green friend." And like the reaction from everybody in the theater was like, it was like a rap battle. Everybody's like, "Ooh," he literally went there. And it's obviously because it's Palpatine and Yoda and stuff. But that moment when you first see Yoda pull out his lightsaber to fight Dooku in episode 2, that was the most hype reaction because everybody lost their damn minds seeing that for the first time. We look back on it with different eyes now, and some people say it's like one of the worst things out there for Star Wars. There's a lot of original trilogy purists that feel like Yoda shouldn't use a lightsaber, and I get it. But it's all about the experience of viewing when you're in that moment at the theater. And I feel like that was a moment that going to the theater to see that, I'll never forget that because that was so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll never forget. I'll never forget Cap when he freaking got Thor's hammer too for Endgame. My theater went nuts, man.
Mm-hmm.
It was like
everybody lost their damn mind.
It was hype fest, dude. And then next thing you know, everybody's crying shortly after.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, yeah, they knocked it out of the park with that, man. So I got some other stuff on the list here that I wanted to touch on.
Sure.
One of them was I didn't get like I think I talked to you maybe mid-season of Mandalorian. I'm not sure when it was. I think I talked to you like sometime in the beginning. I might have had you on here. What were your vibes for the previous season of the Mandalorian as a whole?
The finale and everything. So
yeah, just pretty much your overview of the season, how you felt about where it's going and everything.
So I felt that this was the weaker season of the 3 seasons we got of Mandalorian. It has some good highs, but very low lows. And I've even wrote about them on Clownfish, about the whole thing with celebrities being in Star Wars, how it could be mishandled and everything else. As far as story stuff, there was some decisions that I did not agree with, and I think at this point, like we could talk a little bit more spoilers now. Like I can mention whatever.
We can hit all spoilers on.
So the main big thing, I didn't think it was the right decision to destroy the Darksaber. Thought that was a very stupid move because they built up this weapon in so many other series, including this season. And it's like, you just break it like that. Like, I understand it's Gideon, but why would Gideon want to break the Darksaber? I thought that was a really poor choice for that to happen. I also think that there was probably a lot of stuff that we didn't see. Yeah, there you go.
I just built this Bondi model. All right. I painted up that Darksaber. So I'm sitting there painting this Darksaber like, okay, this is gone. And then I'm painting up his pulse rifle. And I'm like, all right, this is gone. And then I'm painting up the Beskar spear. And I'm like, all right, this is gone.
I think he still got the spear though.
He melted it down for Grogu's armor.
Man, so much for that.
All of the Razor Crest is
Razor Crest is gone.
All of his badass shit is gone, man.
No wonder Mando's sitting at the end of it, like just chill. He's like, you know what? I just need a minute. Like, I'll see you guys in like a couple years next season.
Dude, Mando is going to be nude with just a helmet on before you know it. Like, he's going to lose everything.
He's just done. But like the thing was, this season, the way it ended, I think it ended in an okay place for what it was going on with the season. I felt like the last 2 episodes, there were some moments where I thought they were going to go one way and I thought it was going to go real crazy, and they didn't commit to it. The other thing too, we just didn't get a lot of payoff for some of the things like they almost promised earlier in the season, like the Mythosaur. We got like a glimpse of it. We don't get to see it because I kept thinking that the mythosaur was going to come out and like destroy Gideon's army. It's be like, oh my god, they got the mythical beast on their side at this point to fight the Empire with them to take back Mandalore. I thought that would have been poetic in
Yep.
some way, but no, we didn't get that. I felt that honestly, a lot of the stuff involving, the like offshoot stories, like the stuff that felt like it was left over from Rangers of the New Republic or from Andor. I thought that was really horrible to include those in the season because those are some of the worst episodes to me. I understand why people like them, and I feel like people's got like this buyer's remorse or like this denial with some of those episodes with Dr. Pershing specifically. That whole
That's the
episode,
episode. That
that's
after
the
that
episode that was
episode,
like,
that's when I
why?
had you on.
Yeah, we talked about it. So I won't retread the same territory, but like that episode I felt was terrible as far as like the pacing and just like why are we focusing on this instead of being with Grogu and Din? Like it just makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
But
that technically didn't pay off. All it did was just
yeah,
give us insight into the New Republic, and it's just like, okay, this is what's
yeah,
going
that
on. And
nothing comes from that. And look, I understand that Star Wars needs to grow as a storytelling medium, as like a franchise. It needs to get different ways that the story could be told and stuff. But the biggest thing most annoying thing about it is that it just didn't feel like Star Wars. It didn't feel like the Mandalorian in that moment. You can even argue the same thing when they went to that planet and he had Lizzo and everybody else like that. It just did not feel like the Mandalorian. If it was like that episode was trying to be Blade Runner. It's like, look, I get the nods to other sci-fi series, and there's nothing wrong with that with like the visuals, because we get that same thing from Obi-Wan Kenobi with the planet that he goes to that looks like, Chinatown, almost like downtown Chinatown, the red light district.
absolutely.
But why is it with the sentient, battle droids? What's with it with like, Din's got blasters and all this other stuff, and he's chasing the B1, not the B1, the super battle droid down the streets. This is a super battle droid, mind you. This thing could just turn around with its blaster if it had it still and just end and call the end of the series right now. Like the main thing is that this stuff just was overall it was all over the place this season. So I wanted it to be better. I wanted to enjoy it. I enjoyed the moments that it was still good, for what it was, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I really do wonder. Like, I pretty much like after I let it like settle in, I was just like, that's like season was all right. Pretty much similar opinions to yours. Like, it felt odd, honestly, to be in Mandalorian mode and be watching stuff and feeling like some of it was pointless, because that's not very common when it comes to the Mandalorian. I feel like seasons 1 and 2 were pretty much like almost flawless in my opinion. I really do wonder if it's because Filoni was fully locked into Ahsoka.
Okay, yeah, that's what a lot
And
of people were saying.
yeah, I mean, which like I don't want to like say, oh well, this is because Favreau was running it by himself, because I'm a big Favreau guy too. So I just don't know. I don't know if he was hamstrung by some of the storylines that he was forced to put into Book of Boba Fett, because some of the Mandalorian stuff that was put in Book of Boba Fett was really good.
Well,
And
yeah,
I think he wanted to save that for season 3. And
which would have made sense.
yeah,
Like it would have made perfect sense. I think that a lot of it is based on rumor. We don't know the full story. Some credible sources did say, like Jeff Schneider said, there was a big blow up between him and Kathleen Kennedy, which I believe. If it's
I
coming from
believe
Jeff
it
Schneider,
too.
he knows because he's got people in places that would know like that. So he's like the most credible, at least as close to the most credible source we could have on info like that. But judging the season on what we actually got, it just feels like, again, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen with whatever was going on with those scripts, but also it felt like things just felt a lot less focused than what it was in the first 2 seasons. Because that season 2 ending, for the Mandalorian was awesome. From the build up to it with everything that was going on, that was an awesome season of this show.
Yeah.
And just this season just did not live up to that, live up to the payoff, let alone the quality of the overall season. I felt like hopefully season 4, because they're going to still do more seasons of this show, they could actually learn from that mistake, or at least get a little bit more cohesion with whatever season 4 is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, season 2 is one of the best like finales of a show. Like, my Star Wars fandom cap is obviously involved.
That was a
like,
moment.
but it
Literally.
seriously was like one of those like moments where you're sitting on the edge of your couch and you're just like, are you kidding me right now?
Like they're doing this. Like they're
yeah.
really doing this. Like I remember at the time I didn't write an article for it, but I was planning to do so. But I was saying like this was like an inflection point where it's like, Star Wars is like starting to really like change course to a way where it's like a lot of stuff that they were doing before like doesn't seem like they're going to be doing that anymore. I remember thinking of that to myself, and obviously we've seen what happened since and stuff. But I remember that specific moment being like, "This is why we watch this show. Like, this is the main reason why this show exists to give us moments like this." And we were hyped up for season 3. I think me and you both talked about it that we were hyped up for season 3. But as it is now, I'm still going to watch Mandalorian season 4. I'm still going to watch Ahsoka, of course. I think Ahsoka is going to be really good. And I'm definitely still going to watch the other shows. Like, I'm a little less enthusiastic to watch Andor season 2, but that's like coming to an end. That's the last season for that show. And the same thing also goes for The Acolyte. I'm less enthusiastic about it, but I'm still going to watch it, as a Star Wars fan. So fingers crossed that these things are actually of higher quality or actually like good quality.
Yeah, I want it to be good. I'm not rooting against them, but like I also, don't think that people who are working on them should be rooting against, the fan base either, technically,
Agree.
So it's like I hope it does well. I want Star Wars to do well forever. I don't want it to die out. I mean, that was a conversation we had on last episode. Joe actually brought up G.I. Joe and everything, and that was a huge craze. And like as far as all these figures and everything that we collect and everything, they're like, 50 years down the line, is it still going to be relevant? Like,
well, tell me to go watch the new Transformers movie. That's all I'll say.
That's
all
true.
I'll say that. But like, yeah, it's just the other main thing is like we don't want them to be like hostile towards fans and like bitter towards fans if fans don't like it. Like if the Acolyte comes out after all this and it's like horrible, then like they have nobody else to blame but themselves. But if it's good, it's good. We want it to be good. Want to root for it. We want it to be fantastic, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like just like you said with Andor. Andor is not everybody's cup of tea.
There's a lot of weird like denial and like bad faith arguments about Andor. Like, look, I get why people like it. But like when you objectively look at that first season at all the episodes, that does not feel like a Star Wars show. And it should feel like a Star Wars show being a titled Star Wars Andor. Like, you know what I mean? It's seventh in the same universe. That was my biggest argument with it. And I keep seeing a lot of these different critics and content creators trying to argue against that. It's like, imagine if something came out in the MCU that did not feel like it belonged there. That's exactly what Andor feels like, at least for some people. And it's like, we would be saying the exact same type of arguments here. It's just, like, to me, I felt like that show, and also the thing that came out about the budget, did you see this about the budget for Andor? It was like over $250 million for the entire thing. That's more than the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And it's like, give me a break. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You saw that budget in Obi-Wan Kenobi too.
You're getting Hayden. You're getting freaking, what is it? Everybody else, to reprise their role. McGregor, you're getting everybody. And you mean to tell me that didn't have as big a budget as Andor? Are you serious? Like that, and you got freaking Liam Neeson to come back as Qui-Gon Jinn. You mean to tell me that show was not getting the budget as much as Andor? That's shocking to me. Like, I understand there's economics and different things that go on with making series in Hollywood and all this stuff, but come on now. If I'm an executive, if I'm over there at Lucasfilm, if I'm Bob Iger or Kathleen Kennedy, I should be putting more money into the show that I know people are going to go hype over, especially with the biggest parts of Star Wars in it, more so than I am Andor. And I think maybe there had to be some other things behind the scenes we just don't know to make that happen like that. It's just too weird for me.
Yes, exactly. It's like Netflix has its Stranger Things. Like that Netflix, like there's a lot of people are going to be subscribing to Netflix for Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And Disney Plus needs to have that with probably Star Wars. I mean,
it was The Mandalorian.
Yeah, it was The Mandalorian.
Not no more, I don't think.
No, it doesn't. After season 3, it doesn't have that vibe where it's like I'm going to watch every single episode. But to the fringe fans, like you got to keep them locked in. And, Stranger Things, they get it and everything. And they throw a bag at
House of the Dragon gets it. House of the Dragon for Max or for HBO. Yep. They get it. Like that's their hook for them. But, you know, we'll see what happens with these shows because, the other, keep in mind, we didn't even talk about Skeleton Crew. That's another one. That's like, same thing. Like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they got Jude Law for that. I mean, he's a pretty good actor. Like, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that. That's a good point. That has been going like so like low key, like no one's
really had it at Celebration. They talked about it and they talked about what it is and so. But the point is that like As a franchise, Star Wars is in a weird spot right now with its live action stuff. The games, in my opinion, are being more received or better received than the stuff with the shows. That's just a objective fact. If you don't believe me, go look at the numbers for Andor when people were watching that. It's just not as high. And that's not even coming from me. That's coming from people that are in film that know this stuff, like Grace Randolph, John Campea was talking about it. Kristen Harloff was talking about it. Like, this is stuff that the Hollywood trades have talked about. That's just an objective fact. And no amount of fandom is going to change that. It's just, that's on Lucasfilm and really to change that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like I've said after Andor came out that I feel like the back and forth switched from the sequel trilogy arguments to like Andor is pure art to like, it doesn't feel like Star Wars to me. And if people say it doesn't feel like Star Wars to me, this end is going to fully attack you for that.
I hate that argument. It's so annoying because it's like, look, if it's Star Wars, it should feel like Star Wars. It should contribute something good to Star Wars that's going to bring everybody on board, not just this small subsection of people. Just because you like something that doesn't feel like Star Wars, then maybe you shouldn't be watching Star Wars. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels weird to even say that. Like, Andor is the same show where the showrunner that came out and said like there was going to be no Easter eggs and stuff in it. Look what happened when you went to this guy's like, shop. There's all these Easter eggs in the back. And so I was like, what? Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's just really weird. But I hate those arguments with Andor specifically. And you're probably going to see the same thing come up with The Acolyte. You're probably going to see the same thing come up with other shows eventually down the line. It's just, look, if it's part of this universe, like, it's really got to be like, feel like it's part of this universe. It could still do its own thing, but like, don't let it feel so indistinct, like from the rest of it. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, it's weird.
My one hope for The Acolyte is that they're not going to try to take the Plagueis story and change it to like different characters and stuff. Like, if you're going to tell Plagueis' story, just make it his story, because literally you could take the Plagueis novel and make a movie
I was
out
just
of
going
it.
to say, like, I don't think that's Darth Plagueis. If it is, we have a huge problem then at Lucasfilm, because I've always said there should be no reason why they just flat out deny the existence of a lot of these stories out there, or like they just flat out ignore them. Like, people, they know their fan base loves Plagueis, the novel. They know that their fan base loves Kenobi, the novel, or Tales from Jabba's Palace. Like, there's all these different things. Even the other one too that really gets me mad and annoyed is the Old Republic. Like, they got like they got the timeline marked on there, but like, you're going to take place in the High Republic, and people want the Old Republic stuff. They want Revan, they want Malik. Like, why would you not capitalize on what the heck are you doing? Like, you're acknowledging it exists. It's there. Okay, we get it. So why aren't you doing anything with it? It's just such, as a fan, seeing some of this stuff could be very frustrating. And then the excuses is what makes it not that fun to be engaged with. Like, you get a lot of content creators online that just make excuses for this company sometimes. And it's really coming from bad faith spots, whether it's because of access, whether it's because of good graces within their friends, their bubble, whatever the case might be. It's not being objective at what's going on here.
I'll pin access as number one, is what I'll say.
I would agree.
Access and clout.
And for the record, for anybody that hears this and gets mad at us, that's not just us talking about it. You know who said that too? Kristen Harloff talked about that. He talked about something similar with it, like mentioning it in his Sith Council one time, a long time ago. He mentioned that.
Yeah,
but still, it's stupid.
Yeah, it's easy to have your opinion compromised if you're going to the premieres. Like, there's no doubt about it. I'll even say it myself. If I'm at the red carpet and seeing Star Wars premieres, like, I would be hyped up.
Objective with it. And the thing is that they make it difficult for them to not be objective too. Like, it's a known fact that that's been a problem with Lucasfilm PR and other things. That's been like, like, you got, they play a very, very harsh game or strict game. And it's like, I can understand that people need to do it in order to keep the business flowing. I get it. But also there's an inauthenticity with it that comes along with that I think the audience are really starting to gravitate towards other people that don't have to deal with that. This is why people like Star Wars Theory. This is why people like Josh from the Den of Nerds, like Rule the Galaxy, like what's this guy's name? I think it's Retnay's Holocron. I saw some of his videos when my viral tweet happened. He did a video that was actually talking about the same subject and stuff. But I watched a bunch of his stuff. He's the same way, just like seeing these things. It's like people want the authenticity because they're the same mindset where they could see something's like off or something's up. So there's like they don't want to be constantly lied to if they could see something right in front of their face.
Absolutely. I mean, we have four guys on our podcast regularly where all of us might have a different opinion on something and we all totally get along with each other fine. Like it's fun to chop it up and disagree sometimes. It's okay to do that. It doesn't need to get toxic. It doesn't need to like go into name calling and like dogpiling. Like it's like things can
There's
be
way too much
chill
of
and it
that on
can
social media like Twitter already. Like, and it's coming from those same people that say they don't want a toxic community, but they're the ones being that. Like, ironic, ain't it?
yes, it's crazy. So one other like thing to pretty much like wrap up things on, I'd say, is movies. We got movies coming out.
Yes.
They're according to Kathleen and Star Wars PR, these movies are happening.
I
And
would
one of
hope so for her sake. I
the,
mean, the last time she said this was about with Patty Jenkins going up on an X-wing. Like I was
I
ready.
know.
What happened? Where's it at? Like, come on. Like the thing is that I feel like they got a little bit much more of a better grasp this time ever since Star Wars Celebration. I could tell you that Ray movie's coming out. Well, through hell or high water, that Ray movie is coming
It's
out.
happening.
Whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it might be, it's still a weird movie to release. I don't understand why you go back to it, especially when you got Dave Filoni working on the movie that's going to tie in all the series together from Disney Plus. I don't know why that's not the first one you prioritize. And then the same thing with the Jedi. Was it the Dawn of the Jedi movie? Which I
Yes.
forgot the showrunner's name, like that guy, where he talked about it, where it's just like, it's just weird. I do hope things get figured out and these movies start to come out because Star Wars needs to be in theaters for a lot of people. But
Yes.
you got to give them something that's going to get them excited. You got to give them something at this point.
Yeah, who was it? Was it Lindelof who wrote the
David
am I
Lindelof. Yeah,
butchering?
Lindelof was the one who wrote the Ray treatment, or was it the Ray treatment, or was it the
Yeah,
Dawn of the Jedi
he
thing?
wrote the Ray
The old
script,
Ray.
and apparently he personally said himself that the script was so bad that he like handed in his credentials and was like, I'm done. Like
No,
it
no. What happened was the way that it was explained that I saw in a couple of places that he was writing a script that was going to have Ray with it, but it was going to be an older Ray, like 60 years in the future. And there was a lot of
oh
like other changes and things that was it Lucasfilm, or I'm guessing Kathleen wanted to be made, because I understood some of the stuff that came up about it. It's like, why would you go so far in the future when you still got Daisy Ridley right there? Like that's a business decision, but also keep in mind that also affects a lot of other creative narrative decisions as well. So maybe that's what he was talking about. It's like, yo, like that totally ruins my whole concept or ruins my whole idea, what I wanted to do, and it's turning into this other thing. So maybe that's why he was out. Because keep in mind, they really talked about him coming to this project to like be a big deal, and then that just again fell through. It's a shame too, because that's happened so much with Lucasfilm for many different things. And I don't think it's just a business thing. It's really got to be a thing with the way that decisions are being made over there. Again, going back to Kathleen Kennedy, and it sucks to say that because people don't like that, but who's the one making the decisions over there?
yeah, it's I'm trying to think of what oh man.
That Colin Trevorrow was supposed to do the Duel of the Fates. Like his whole thing, he had Ray wielding a double blue lightsaber. Where was that? Like something like it's just like a whole bunch of things that I feel
Yeah.
like in the wake of stuff like that with all these other films and these other projects. By the way, we haven't really heard of that. I think Kathleen has said that they're in the process, like the Lando series. Like, remember when they announced that and then just disappeared?
She just keeps saying like, well, we're waiting on, so and so, because I just saw an article recently where they're just like, is the Ryan Johnson trilogy still happening? And she's like, oh, he's got another. She's like, he's got another Glass Onion movie, and we're gonna be like talking again once that's done. He's really busy.
That goes back to my PR comment about Lucasfilm's PR. Like they just got to get a better handling on their public relations and how they talk and how they get some of their people behind the scenes talking. Because remember, Kathleen Kennedy was the one who got on a interview with IGN saying that it was it was the Kevin Feige film that was people knew about. Because remember, the Star Wars show on YouTube, the official Star Wars show, came out and said that Kevin Feige was making a Star Wars movie. And she got on this interview saying that was never a real thing. It's like, do you know what your own people were just saying like a year or two ago?
Yeah.
Like you signed off on that. Like it just looks weird, and it looks weird in the worst way possible, where it's like that should have never happened like that. The thing with Patty Jenkins, if it was never going to be a thing like that, it should have never had that whole big spectacle that they did. to make that
That
happen.
will live in Star
That's
Wars
infamy.
infamy.
That's
It
like
will
that's
live
a
forever.
major L. Like I'll tell you right now, the biggest L's I've seen from Lucasfilm, like with a lot of stuff, is one with the Colin Trevorrow script that he was originally supposed to do the final sequel trilogy film, the Kevin Feige project that apparently was never real, but it was. There are people that have talked about it that it was. It was. That's a big L because that's the best producer in movies right now. The man made the MCU practically, you know.
Yep.
And this thing with Patty Jenkins, because Patty Jenkins clearly wanted to do it. She clearly wanted to make this movie. Now, I think in the long run, that'll be a blessing in disguise because that Rogue Squadron movie doesn't feel like it was actually going to be the Rogue Squadron we've known from like both the novels and also the games, because it was going to be her thing. But still, the fact that you put this whole spectacle at Star Wars Celebration and then it just completely dropped the ball. It's like, what do you say to that? What can one say after that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think when we get with Filoni, with everything, with all of the heir to the empire mentioning and everything that's been happening
That
with
movie
this,
better be called Heir to the Empire. I'll tell you right now.
I I
Every
bet you
sign
will
is
be.
pointing to it. Like if they don't use it, it's like that is like such a layup. Like, and I understand why he's doing it too, because he's borrowing elements from that. Keep in mind,
Mhm,
he's talking to the original writer of Heir to the Empire, Timothy Zahn. Like
mhm.
he's doing him specifically, Dave Filoni and John Favreau too, but really Dave Filoni is really the one that's making all the right moves for a lot of people when it comes to stuff. And again, being that guy that was actually, quote unquote taught or instructed or shadowed George Lucas for a long time. Again, George Lucas was like around the corner with the Clone Wars. He was around, like, giving input and stuff. And that was Dave Filoni's baby, on top of Ahsoka, being his character and stuff.
Yep.
Like, compared to all these other people. Like, I think that's the one film that we get a faith in that might actually happen. But like I said, I think if there's one film that's going to get made through hell or high water and everything else fail, it's going to be the Rey film, straight up.
I would be devastated if Filoni does not get his film because he deserves it. It should happen.
He 100% deserves that. Like, for all the hate that people throw at him for one reason or another in the Star Wars community, he's the one that's actually gotten stuff done, and a lot of it, and stuff that people remember, people talk about. People talk about watching Clone Wars and Rebels in season 7 of Clone Wars, in the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch was dope this last season.
I totally agree.
Good. Surprisingly good. Like, you want to talk about politics in Star Wars, that episode, the 2-parter with Palpatine stuff, that's how you do politics in Star Wars. Like, not what Andor was talking about. Like, that got everybody interested in that. It's like, that was clever. That was interesting. And it's respecting the lore and do all this stuff. But again, I feel like people have been burnt and really, like, really put off by a lot of the stuff that's happened with the live action stuff for one reason or another. And it's a shame if any of those projects just don't happen. I think that they will, because I think, like, there's stuff behind the scenes that we probably don't know that probably has put like a fire underneath them or has really put them in hot water, like, given all the stuff that's happened up to this point. Because remember, Bob Iger was the one who came out and said, like, yo, we're going to really start checking some stuff and moving things and tightening the belt, with whatever's going on with Disney.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure part of that affected Lucasfilm as well. And Jeff Schneider even said that. Jeff Schneider was the one who went on his podcast where he was talking about it with John Roca and said that, yo, there's all this stuff happening with, like, Pixar and all these other places. Guess who else is on that list that's going to be getting a phone call or getting a visit from big boy Bob Iger? Like, it's Lucasfilm. So I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it feels like Disney is getting stuck in the place that they were right before Bob Iger became the CEO, and then he launched it. And then it's like, I don't know. I felt like they went into a what's the saying for it? Oh my God, I'm like drawing a blank here. They just started putting out a ton of content and not caring about
his own.
Yeah, they just like, I don't know. Disney.
It's weird. Like, it's weird to even talk about it because
sometimes
everybody else out there has their opinions about this, and it's like, no matter what your opinion have, you're a bad person for having that opinion. It's weird to talk about it because we could objectively look at this stuff and be like, look, this is what it is. Disney right now is doing kind of in a weird spot, even after The Little Mermaid. And I like The Little Mermaid. It just came out, but apparently it wasn't doing that well in the box office, and it's starting to affect certain things within that company. Keep in mind also, we just lost the Star Cruiser that got shut down. That's another major L. Like, that statement, I'm sorry, that's one of the worst PR statements I've seen for a while. They know it's an L. Like this is like, okay, like we're learning from this. Like, yeah, really? You think that everybody was telling you this for like the last like under a year that it was around? Like,
Yeah.
come on. Like
Yeah, we called that very early on, which is
everybody
sad.
called it. Everybody was like Babe Ruth and saw that one coming.
Oh,
Like
I
they
know.
pointed out from the sky. Like there was no way. And then when you pair that up with some of the other stuff about Galaxy's Edge, and certain things about it that during its construction and stuff. By the way, that is known publicly about the concepts for Galaxy's Edge. It was going to be original trilogy. Like when you pair all that stuff up together, it does not paint a good picture.
No, I agree. And that's when you realize that you need to find a way to connect to your fan base when you have this incredible Star Wars experience. And as you said, everybody was Babe Ruth and it just being like, oh, this thing is toast off the rip. Like it's not happening.
Yeah, some of
And
the most diehard Star Wars people I know, like not like you have your people like Star Wars Theory, Josh, and like a lot of other content creators out there that a lot of them were really put off, and they all said the same exact thing we were saying. But I've known people that are just like not content creators that are like maybe cosplayers or business people that love Star Wars with a passion, buy stuff, they spend money on this. They're like, hell no, hell no. I'd rather go to Scum and Villainy, the cantina in California, and spend money like that for the price that like that you're gonna get for 2 days this place, like ARG or not. Like this is not it.
yeah, I think studios are learning some lessons with fandoms, and I think Star Wars is getting to that point. In my opinion, here's the thing: I thought Kenobi was going to be a banger, and
Yeah, everybody
honestly,
did. Everybody thought it
it
was gonna be
turned
a
out to
win.
probably be like my least favorite. It had moments. Don't get me wrong; the moments
Yeah.
hit. The moments hit when they needed to, and I
Yep.
felt it. But that was maybe 10% of the show when those moments hit.
Yeah.
90% of the show, honestly, like I didn't mind young Princess Leia. I thought that young actress was great as her. I thought she was fine. I just thought like quality wise of the show and everything, like you're talking about budget wise, like who the hell is thinking about putting a bigger budget towards Andor when you
No
have
wonder they were smacking stormtrooper helmets and that they were hiding people underneath cloaks and stuff like
yeah,
that. That maybe the extra couple $1,000,000 from this show could have gone to this show and they could have fixed that in the script.
yeah.
You know what I'm
You have
saying?
two
Like,
core
it's
actors from your franchise back
yeah.
years later.
Yeah, like they should have spent the money and probably did some more stuff with the sound stage or whatever. The volume, it's called
Yeah.
to get out of the volume, whatever. The point is that was another thing that just like people were ready and it was such a disappointment. Like the fact that's a cold hard fact. A lot of people swear up and down that that show is good and it's not. Like there's some of the worst things with all the Disney Plus Star Wars shows are in that show
Yeah.
specifically. Like as far as filmmaking is concerned, not just lore and story, which lore and story, that's a whole other conversation. But like a lot of that stuff, that it should have never been an L. Everybody thought it was going to be a W. It was a big L for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I just like my thoughts are I really think this Ahsoka show is going to be good. I just have a very good feeling about it. I'm going to start hitting I Rebels is the only like Star Wars show that exists that I really have not fully dove into, and that's like
Really?
crazy. I've watched 2
You've
seasons
watched
of it.
Resistance more than you did
No,
Rebels?
no, actually I didn't watch Resistance at all. I've logged 0 minutes of
I've watched
Resistance
a little
actually.
bit of it. And it's like you're not missing much, Bree. Like it's okay.
Brent on our podcast watched that, but
Oh man.
yeah, and you could probably go back to like the Ewok shows and stuff like that. I've
Okay, but
watched
that's
all of
classic though. That's
them.
Ewoks. Like that gets a pass because it's not really Star Wars, but it's just kind of there. It's like a little teddy bear. It's just there.
Yeah, I need to finish Rebels, and I know the characters in it. I know what happens at the end of it, which is not a problem. Like I've
Mm.
talked, I know what's coming, but I just need to piece some things together. And it's like Clone Wars. I was late to the game. I didn't watch Clone Wars till like 3 years ago, honestly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was late to Clone Wars as well. But like I ended up binging like all of it at practically at one
yeah,
point. And then obviously season 7. But like Rebels is another good one because again, it's a blend of new and old, like prequel and original trilogy with some new concepts and ideas injected into it. So it's a blend of everything, which is
yeah,
good because that's a show again like Clone Wars, but really Rebels has a real big respect for the original trilogy. It really does, and not just because of James Earl Jones, not because of the actor that was doing the Alec Guinness impression, all that stuff. But there's a lot of other things within that show that you will love as an original trilogy fan. You're gonna love that show. That show
yeah.
is awesome, and that again, that's Dave Filoni doing that, like making sure that show is like that.
Yep, and that's why I'm going in with the hope that we have Ahsoka banger. and then Heir to the Empire name announcement for the movie,
Oh,
and
what?
that's a
That'd be
banger.
amazing. That'd be amazing.
And then they realize, hey, like, this really gives a lot of shout outs to the lore of like the novels and like a lot of these original stories, and it made $1 billion in the box office. Like, maybe we should go this direction a little bit with things, like, there you go. Do a Plagueis movie, have a young Palpatine in that movie. It would
I'm
be a
still surprised they
banger.
haven't even done that. Like,
Absolute
why would you
banger.
not do that? Like, that is one of the most beloved Star Wars novels, period. Like, there's a couple of novels I could think of off the top of my head that are like beloved. That, like, granted, they're legends, or at least, a chunk of them are legends and stuff. Like Plagueis, Darth Bane, the whole Darth Bane trilogy, Shadows of the Empire, the novelization of Revenge of the Sith is like looked at as like probably like the one canon like novel from like certain stuff that's pulled from it. Like, again, there's a lot of things that I feel like they could always go back into and really utilize, and they just choose not to. And I think that's so dumb. I think that's such a lost like opportunity.
The answers are in front of them. We just need to hope that they understand that.
Now, if Dave Filoni comes on, is like, okay, guys, I did all this stuff with Ahsoka. Now let's go do Darth Bane or Darth Plagueis and stuff. I'm all in.
Dude,
what?
Are you kidding me?
You kidding me? The Star Wars fans would do a backflip. Like, I don't care how much you dislike Dave Filoni. He does something like that, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, because here's the thing. Thrawn is coming now. And there's a lot of new Star Wars fans who are going to see Thrawn for the first time because like I have friends who watch Mandalorian and all these things. They'll be watching Ahsoka. They have no clue who Thrawn is. They don't know who he is. And one thing Star Wars has always had is Star Wars has always had a big bad. You've always had Darth Vader. You've had Anakin turning to the dark side, but you had Palpatine even more so in the prequel trilogy. You have that big bad. And that's one thing that needs to come with this Mandalorian universe is the big bad that's going on. And it'll be exciting to have that culmination happen. That's why I think Mando season 3 suffered a little bit, because some of these big plot points are going to be showing up in Ahsoka to tell this even bigger story that's going to happen. And that's why we saw Zeb in The Mandalorian, because those universes are going to start coming together.
I think you're gonna get the shot of like all the Rebels people together in Ahsoka. I think at some point, like, you're gonna get that shot that we should have got with the original trilogy characters in the sequels, like straight up.
Yeah, it'll be sweet when it happens, man. I'm excited for it.
I think it's gonna be dope. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun, and the people that they got for it, a lot of the actors and the actresses and stuff. What's it called? What is it? Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka.
I'm a big Rosario Dawson fan. I
love
she's
Rosario Dawson.
Great.
Rosario Dawson's awesome. She has she's like Ashley Eckstein. Like, just got a reverence for that character. Like, she's really come into it and really got a lot of respect for the fans. It's awesome to see.
That's what one of the guys at ICCC, his name is Headless Ned Stark. Shout out to him. We had him on our podcast fairly recently. Dr. Squatch is in here. Dr. Squatch always
Dr. Squatch.
What's going on, Dr. Squatch? The Wookiee doctor.
I can imagine a Wookiee with
with the clone helmet.
Dr. Squatch. He's the Wookiee doctor. He's the medical officer in the Wookiee home camp on Kashyyyk.
He's got the best profile picture out there.
Somebody get in touch with Dave Filoni. We need some lore for this. Dr. Squatch coming into canon soon.
He was telling me though, he's like, he's met a ton of people at conventions, celebrities, and he always he really chops it up with them and tries to talk to them and does interviews and everything. And he said by far the two nicest celebrities he's ever met, Ashley Eckstein, Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, Ashley Eckstein is a treasure. She, like, if you remember when she was at Star Wars Celebration, she had that moment she was crying because she didn't really get the cameo in the Ahsoka series, which I felt for that. I was like, damn, why wouldn't they at least do something? Like that. But keep in mind, they're gonna have Ahsoka in probably a flashback. So I mean, if they got a young actor to play, they could still use Ashley's voice. I'm just saying, like, if they really want to make Star Wars fans have a moment.
Oh, I know.
I'm gonna tell you right now, people are gonna be crying in the streets if there's a moment where like Ahsoka has a moment either with Luke or with Anakin at some point in that show. Oh my god, Star Wars Twitter is gonna shut down. Because they're all crying over it.
I think it's gonna happen. I think
And Hayden's
Filoni's
in the
gonna hit.
show. He's
Oh, I
confirmed.
know. I know.
Oh,
I know.
it's gonna
I
be great.
can't wait to see the difference between Hayden Christensen in this show compared to the Kenobi show.
Oh my
And
god,
and
what?
and the treatment of him as a character, because
What?
no
Oh
no
my
no
god.
like no offense to Deborah Chow either, because she's directed a lot of good Mandalorian episodes and
Yeah, but she
everything
didn't
too.
write.
And
She didn't write the series. Like a lot of people were
yeah,
unfair to Deborah Chow. I felt like a lot of people. I understand the direction is a part of the movie making process or the series making process, and some of those decisions that she has to take some blame from. Okay, like slapping the stormtrooper helmet, that should have never been thing. That should have been a call by her to like not have that because it looks stupid on film. But
yeah,
like she didn't write those scripts. She directed them. Like the show. Like there's other writers that wrote those scripts.
exactly. So I just have a very good vibe for it. So I
Yeah.
hit everything on my list, honestly, for tonight, man. I mean, we covered a ton of topics. I mean,
Mm.
we hit Outlaws heavy in the beginning. And if you guys didn't check out our YouTube on that, definitely go check it out. If you're a fan of gaming, and even if you're like a fringe gamer and you just like playing these Star Wars games, because they're just fun to play. I mean, they
Mhm.
really are. They're great. I mean, I'm still playing Jedi Survivor, haven't finished it yet. I
I
wish
got
we
a
could
review
talk.
for it already out
I know. I
on
wish we could
YouTube.
talk spoilers on it and everything, because the game storyline is not spoiled for me still. I still don't know where it's going.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
only on I think I'm on the third planet right now on that game. But like as I told you on the side, it's like I had like right when that game came out, my schedule was like crazy, and it's like I just wasn't hitting it at night as much as I usually would.
Hmm.
So, and that freaking Rancor, man, that first Rancor that you had to fight, that's a difficulty jump right
You
there.
think that's bad? I think it's not a spoiler, but like there's a fight where you have to fight two of them. Like that's that one. That'll when you get stronger and you get other abilities and stuff, it makes it a little bit easier. But it's still a challenging as hell fight. Like that game is not easy. Like
He
especially
gets you, you're dead.
some of the
He
later
like
fights are harder. Like you think that's bad. Wait till you get later into the game story. Like there's some tough ones.
It's really cool though so far. I'm loving what they're doing with Cal's character, and like where like the crew was kind of like dispersed around. I mean, I can't believe again the amount of High Republic shout outs that they're
Yeah, you
putting
know
in
something?
that.
I even said it in my review. I really feel like they were trying super hard to get people to like the High Republic because I
Yes.
even said it would make so much more sense if it was Old Republic. It would have more weight to it. But I understand why they went with High Republic because it's a little bit closer to the time frame of when that stuff would be around. Because Old Republic is 4,000 years prior to it, so a lot of that stuff, the structures wouldn't even be there. Like the
Yeah.
degradation, like it just the logic, it doesn't make any sense. But with the High Republic, they have it there. I just don't think they do enough with the story stuff to make you like understand what was so important about the High Republic. Like
Yeah.
you don't know, and some of those flashbacks, I think by the time you've seen them, there's certain flashbacks to the High Republic there where they don't explain like certain characters or enemies and other stuff that are going on within the Jedi Order at that time frame. So you don't really get that. You have to read those novels to get that, and that's just way too much to get that small little snippet out of that.
Yeah, that's like they're not in. I'm not in line to do the High Republic novels. I mean, we've had Jess, Duchess Darksaber Light. She's done all of the High Republic books. She knows them like the back of her hand. Huge fan. I don't know. I just haven't gotten to them. I don't know if
I
or when
chose
I
not
will.
to,
Yeah,
honestly. Like I heard about it, I saw some of the stuff, especially with the Rock character, and I was like, nah, like this just doesn't. What I am hoping though is that eventually, when it comes out, Star Wars Eclipse takes place in the High Republic era. That was going to be
yeah,
the game that, for some people, that's going to be their introduction into the High Republic outside of the novels and the comics. So, even though that's not going to be out for a while, we're probably not going to see that game for a long time. But that's going to be the one that probably gets me a little bit more into it. But
yeah.
still, like I feel like that era of Star Wars, like there should be other things like in other media, like what they did in Jedi Survivor, to really kind of make us like be intrigued by it. Because I felt like the books and stuff weren't really going to do it for me.
Yeah, on the Star Wars vision board, there's no doubt that there is a High Republic post-it sitting like pretty high, because you got this Jedi Adventures, which is the kid show that takes place in High
Yeah, but
Republic.
that's like a side thing. You can't really like look at that as like canon or
I know, but I
significant.
know that, but it is still High Republic. That's like I'm just saying, it's like you could have made like a Star Wars
Prequel.
kid show like anywhere technically,
Yeah, true.
and you're choosing High Republic for it to be that point.
Specifically.
Yeah, like that might be like a lot of kids that might be like a new generation's entrance point to
You
Star
know
Wars.
something? I don't even think it would be that great because like a lot of the stuff for the High Republic that I've seen that again, not reading the books or anything, have not appealed to me. Like there was a
Yeah.
whole High Republic like fashion show or something that I saw come up from the comics. I was like, what the hell is this? Like it was so random and it just put me off so much from seeing that. On top of like again, the rock character that's in there, I think it's called Geode or whatever. Then there's the ship called the Vessel, which makes no sense to me. Why
Geodude.
something that doesn't even sound Star Wars. But again, judging the book by its cover, I'm only judging it from a far distance like that because I'm not engaged with those stories. But
Yeah.
hopefully there's other things down the line that come up that maybe get me a little bit much more okay with it. But as it is right now, I'd rather just spend time in this post Return of the Jedi era or
Yeah.
any of the other like eras.
Which again is okay. Star Wars is like Shrek. It's like the onion. It has layers.
Yeah,
Star
as
Wars has
layers.
layers. You can be a fan of High Republic, and I could be a fan of original trilogy, and it can be
And we might have
totally
another
okay.
one soon. Because I mean, besides Old Republic, we might have that Dawn of the Jedi era that might actually be cool. Because remember, in Legends, that era is more like proto sabers, like Viro blades, like very early versions of what the Jedi, like the Jedi were, for different characters like that, or what the Force was, for a lot of the stuff in that universe. So that might actually be kind of cool. I mean, that's where you get more to kind of like, to me, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Dune in a sense,
Yep.
like be kind of like that, but who knows?
My goal for that is that they land like a super top tier star to be that like first Jedi, like a Christian Bale or Leonardo DiCaprio. Like
Mm.
I want them to land like big time actor or actress. I mean, I don't know which way it's going to go. If there's going to be multiple Jedi, like I just want it to be like really top tier when it comes to that, because that's going to be a hell of a role to play
They
for
said it's going
whoever's
to be a
chosen.
biblical story. It's going to be a biblical take type of story. So, like something along the lines like the Ten Commandments or Jesus of Nazareth. So they make it like that, but apply with like the Force and like having that one central character that's like, okay, this is the very first Jedi. There's the Jedi or whatever other organizations are there, but this is the very first Jedi that we know of. Like I
Maybe
could
it'll
see
be Matthew McConaughey.
that,
Imagine
right?
that. What are you
Some
doing
random
this
white
thing
guy.
here? You know?
Oh
Whoa.
God. That'll be weird. 'Cause that's the other thing too. I feel like maybe they should even go with unknowns because like I was writing in my article about celebrities, like sometimes the celebrity and the fame of that celebrity overshadows the part. That was one of the big reasons why with George Lucas he didn't cast Michael Jackson as Jar Jar Binks because Michael Jackson was just too famous. And then like
Dude,
he
I
wouldn't.
didn't know about that story till
Dude,
like
yeah,
a couple
that's an
months
infamous
ago.
story that George Lucas talked about. Like, and the other one too was Tupac. Tupac was actually originally supposed to be in the Jedi Council for Phantom Menace, I think it was, before he passed. Like it's pretty crazy. Like he could have been Mace Windu when you think about it. Like,
Dude,
that's
that's
pretty
wild.
wild.
That's incredible. Yeah, I did not know about that Jar Jar story till we were doing a podcast, and Steve Glosson was telling the story about when George introduced Ahmed Best to Michael Jackson and
Yep.
said, "This is going to play Jar Jar,"
Yep.
and Michael Jackson was just like, he looked him up and down and was just like not a fan of him and
Well,
like walked
keep in mind
away.
it's Michael Jackson, and
I
he's
know.
thinking more like, "Yo, my star
Poor
power
Ahmed
can give me
Best,
everything I
man.
want." Like, but I think George was smart enough to do that, and I think it was a smart decision because if that would have happened, Jar Jar would have been just Michael Jackson. It would have just been
Yeah,
Michael Jackson in Star Wars, and I think George was smart enough to be like, "No, we can't have that because we want people to be immersed in this universe, immersed in this world like that." It was
true.
a smart decision.
True. No, I totally agree with that. So, is there going to be a special popcorn at the Batman premiere tomorrow? That's my
Oh,
question for
the
you.
Flash. I didn't see any
Or the
team.
Flash? Yeah, I'm calling it
Like,
Batman
yeah,
because
it's pretty
of
much
Keaton.
for me. It's Batman.
Yeah,
Michael Keaton coming back as Batman. Like, and again, I've already seen it, but the only reason why I'm going again to see it is because there's other stuff that's going to be in this version that wasn't in my version. So the credits, the after credits, and whatever the ending stinger is with it, because apparently there is something there that they've talked about in various places that I haven't seen yet. But also, I didn't see an AMC popcorn tin for this movie. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I know the real cool ones that I saw recently was the Transformers one for
that was
Transformers Rise
dope,
of the Beast.
dude.
That they had the helmets for Optimus Prime, and then they also had the Optimus Prime like truck mode that
Yeah,
you could hold a drink and popcorn in. That was crazy.
yeah. It's got the
It was-
straws as the freaking
Yep.
exhaust for
And
the.
The Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse ones were actually pretty good. I saw them both, the Gwen and the Miles one. Those were
Yeah,
pretty good. The Gwen one was huge. It was like really beefy.
Dude, I'll see those movies like 2 days after release and they're gone, dude.
Yeah. Oh no, they're gone that
pop
first day. I
yeah.
saw when I went, I didn't get one, but I held it there for the TikTok video and stuff. There was a lot of people buying them up, just scooping them up, buying each one. Those are like $20, $30 a pop for those things
Yeah,
without
they're no
popcorn.
joke. They're no
Yeah.
joke. I see the Mario one in your
Yeah,
background.
that one I
freaking
got.
wanted that one, man.
I got that
wanted
one,
that.
and I got what was it? Though you can't see it here, but I got the cowl for the Batman. That
That
one I
one
got.
is sick too.
Yeah, that one I got, and I also got the Jurassic Park one for Jurassic World Jurassic World Dominion, and I think that's the only other ones that I have here because I have other ones. Like I have the Rogue One, a Star Wars story one with the Empire on it that it just says Star Wars Rogue One, like that. Not a Star Wars story; it's the original logo that they had. But yeah, they actually have good popcorn stands. The freaking Fast X one was weird. Like it was the muscle car that Dominic Toretto drives. Like it had that one. It just looked like the popcorn couldn't fit in it.
I was gonna say you probably don't get much popcorn value inside that. I was thinking that with the Optimus Prime truck too. You might not get that much.
No, the Optimus Prime one, you do, and the drink because it holds the drink and the popcorn. Yeah, and the Mario one obviously because it's like pretty big.
Yeah, you could load that thing up, man. That would be perfect. I wanted that. I wanted that. So
one thing I do get though at the movie theater specifically for AMC is the specialty drinks. Like certain drinks will get popped up. They'll get made as like special like alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, like the Avatar one and everything.
The Avatar one I didn't get because they didn't have the sparkle stuff that they could put into it because there was no point to get the drink if you didn't have like the full thing. Like I did get the Guardians of the Galaxy one where they actually put like sour sour worms in it, which was supposed to be sour candy. That was like the different like galaxy things, but they didn't have it at the theater at the time. So they gave me sour worms in it to fill like the same void. I did the Black Panther one called the Eternal Spirit. That was pretty good. The Doctor Strange one, that was pretty good. That had like a spice thing to it. There was one also, I believe it was for Fast X, but it wasn't an alcoholic beverage. It was called the Toretto Twist, which is just two sodas mixed together. It was really whack. It's called the thing of the soda. And then one of the other ones that I remember that was the Batman. There was two drinks for the Batman. There was the Batman themed one, which was like a bluish tint, and then there was a Catwoman themed one. Then I got both like that just to have it.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome, dude. I like that. That just adds to the experience. I mean, I've seen the ads for those drinks and everything, and I think it's awesome.
Some of them aren't always as good as like what they're advertised, but at least some of them are pretty good. I'll admit. Yeah. Like for what you pay for some of them, like I would hope they would be good. Like some of them are like $12, $13, maybe $15 for the drink, like because of what they have in it. Like they have like pretty good like rum or tequila or anything like that.
Absolutely, dude. It makes the experience that much better.
So the other one that I got was the Knockout. That was for Creed 3.
There you go.
Hennessy in it. I remember that. That was actually pretty good. I watched that. It had that while I was seeing the movie.
Dude, the Flash has to have a drink tomorrow.
You know what? I could check right now in AMC. Watch, I'm gonna look right now because if they have it, they'll have it on the app here that I could just look at it and it'll say for me.
Hopefully the drink is not called Ezra Miller in Hawaii. That would be a bad drink.
The Ezra Miller Smackdown. No, not the Smackdown. The Ezra Miller Chokeout.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That'd be horrible.
Ezra Miller witnessing someone do karaoke.
Oh, God. That'd be really, whoops, I hit the wrong thing. I almost got it here. There it is. Feature drinks. Do they have any? Nope.
Damn.
None right now because the last one that they had was the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 one.
See, if they were smart, they would do like a Batman 89 drink. Like you could easily come up with.
I go tomorrow and they got a Batman themed drink for the Flash. I'm getting it. I don't care. Like I'll put it on Twitter or TikTok.
I'll be looking for the TikTok.
Well, I'm gonna like I always do when I go to the theaters. I always do a TikTok whenever it pops up. Whenever I go to the theater, because I did it for the last one I did it was for the Little Mermaid that I did.
Yep, and your Across the Spiderverse one was
Across the Spiderverse. That's right.
Was a banger as well. I really enjoyed that one because you hit on like all the different points of like going into the theater and seeing the movie. I like that stuff because it just promotes making it fun to go to the movies, man.
This is why AMC needs to sponsor me and stop playing around because I go a lot to AMC. My friend Solo, she actually she'll put in the comments, she'll tag AMC and be like, yo, it's AMC. which is good.
Well, you
It's
did
over here.
numbers on that across the Spiderverse one. I mean,
It
honestly,
did
that's
better than the other ones. Like I was hoping the Little Mermaid one would do good. Like I want to do bigger numbers with some of my stuff, especially when I talk movies. Like it doesn't always get big. Like when I did a review for Across the Spider-Verse, and I also did the review for Little Mermaid, they did pretty much better, than normal. Like the one that didn't do as well was Guardians of the Galaxy, which maybe everybody was just kind of sick of the Marvel stuff. And I think, yeah, was that the other one? Yeah, I think that was the only other one recently that I'd seen
yeah.
that I did a
What's
review on.
weird is Guardians made its money, but like I'm always like figure hunting. I go to Target, dude. Marvel Legends, they're like similar to the Star Wars Black Series figures.
Mhm.
All of the Guardians of the Galaxy figures are on clearance and they're just all on
Yeah,
the
nobody
shelf.
wants them.
Yeah.
Like, no, the funny thing is, like, a lot of those figures, especially the Marvel figures, I don't see a lot of people buying them. Like, I see people buy Star Wars stuff, like not like certain Star Wars stuff. I see people buy Mario movie stuff. I see people buy Sonic the Hedgehog movie stuff.
Yep.
Um, Little Mermaid. Well, I don't really go to like the kids, like girl section and stuff, but I would assume also be the same thing with the Little Mermaid. Because
Yeah.
there was a lot of people rolling around with like Little Mermaid merchandise and things like that. Also, the popcorn bucket that for Little Mermaid had a light up thing when I went. I remember there was this older woman that I saw that's like a huge Little Mermaid fan that she was there. She got the popcorn bucket and it lit up like fluorescently and had a whole bunch of stuff with it.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I love like paying attention to merch sales and everything. Like, um, Wakanda Forever, like a lot of that stuff
Yeah,
didn't
that's
sell
another
as
one.
much. Like a lot of that stuff stayed on the shelves, which like
Mhm.
I enjoyed that movie and everything, but just for some reason the merch like just really didn't do that well.
It's a
And
depressing
I,
movie. That's probably why. Like the movie
yeah,
itself is
for
kind of
kids,
depressing.
it's sad. Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
like
and
you know what's wrong with that? The Marvel Legends Black Panther helmet for the yeah the it's not the Black Suit, but it's the Marvel Legends one that you have for Black
yep,
Panther. It's purple like
that
that.
thing is wild, dude.
That and also I think Shuri's version. I think there's one for her that also sold because I see that all the time and I see people wearing it, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, they had those on the shelves in my Target, which I think they got overstocked because they were $120 and they put them on sale for $50, dude. And
Oh my god,
there was a shelf of like 20 of them for
50
$50
bucks.
a
I
piece. And I was sitting
wish
there looking at it.
I would have bought one. Oh my
I'm like,
god.
I could buy this I could technically like drop some money and buy all of these. And then like a couple years down the line, probably you like an eBay seller would have lost their mind, which I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
big
they
time.
did.
There's one in my game. I mean, there's a GameStop that I go to, and they have a Darth Vader Obi-Wan Kenobi like Black Series helmet that I keep looking at. It's like it's got a price. It went down a little bit. I'm waiting for it because I'm really thinking about pulling the trigger on it.
Dude,
But
that thing is worth the price because that you can put that on. You
it's
put
the
like
voice
the
modulator,
neck
right?
piece. Yeah, you put it like a neck piece on, then you put the headpiece on,
Mm,
and then the
yeah,
top shield comes
and then
over
it
it.
goes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I heard about. I saw theories unboxing of that. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. But I
yeah,
keep looking at it because it's there, and I'm like, huh. I really am thinking. I see that and the Death Squad. Yeah, the Death Squad one for the
yep.
Mandalorian.
That's what I mean. That's what this is right here. Is the
Was that Mando or is that the Death Squad one? The blue one is the one I
this is Mando, but this
yeah,
is
it's
still the
Mando.
Black Series, and it's like
Yeah.
the quality that they put into these. It's got the lights when you turn it upside down, it lights up red
Mm,
inside of it. It's got like the
it's pretty
leather
cool.
looking detail inside of it. It's like they don't spare. They're worth the money in my opinion because now the figures are just jumping up in price. Like you'll pay $30 now for a figure, and it's
Mhm.
like, oh, if you pay $70 more, you could have a movie quality helmet, like
Yeah.
which is crazy.
There's like Stormtrooper versions too that I keep seeing it
Yep.
pop up every once in a while. That I'm pretty sure the 501st Legion is going to be on top of that. Is they don't have to make as many
Yeah.
for themselves.
Phase two clone troopers in
Yeah,
my Target
that's
right
what I saw.
now.
Mm-hmm.
So
This is dope.
yeah. But where they dropped the ball with Guardians is they put every character in those same like jumpsuits. So there's
Mm,
the only variation between characters is like body size and just their head mold being on it. And
mm.
it's just all the same suits that they're all wearing. So like there's no like uniqueness to each character, I'll say.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
it sucks, but it is what it is.
Well, we could hit this stuff all night, man. I mean, we had a nice long one tonight. I mean, I enjoyed every minute of it. Why don't you let everybody know where they can find you as usual and talk about what you do one more time before we end this thing.
Yeah, sure. So everybody could follow me over on YouTube, youtube.com/ at JakeJamesLugo. You could also follow me on Twitter at JakeJamesLugo.
My bad.
At JakeJamesLugo on Twitter. I'm constantly uploading new videos on YouTube about games, high quality, highly edited reviews, let's plays. I just did a thing recently within the last few days. I did not only my demo impressions of Final Fantasy 16 for the Final Fantasy 16 demo, it comes out very soon. Can't wait to play it. And also my video review of Street Fighter 6, my full review of it, and had a lot to say about the game. Was waiting for that for a long time and finally got it done, even though it's a little bit late after the release of the game, but still, like, there was so much to talk about. Same thing with YouTube shorts that are on there. I'm constantly uploading YouTube shorts for everybody to check out. I'm trying to get more people to see them, just like I'm trying to get more people to see me on TikTok, youtube.com/ at JakeJamesLugo on TikTok. Oh, not YouTube, TikTok.com/ at JakeJamesLugo. That's where I'm on there every single day. New posts, new videos for TikTok about games, Star Wars, movies, all types of stuff. Today, I was even talking about Star Wars Outlaws, the Kotaku article about Star Wars Outlaws, Hexen, if you guys know the game Hexen 64, because Phil Spencer was wearing a Hexen t-shirt during the Xbox game showcase. And also, I talked a little bit about Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was the better Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original or the remake from EA in 2017. So
that's a damn good one right there.
Yeah, there are a lot of comments so far. So we need more comments in there from people to talk about it. But again, also, you could also find me on Instagram at JakeJamesLugo. You got subscribe over to my Patreon, patreon.com/ JakeJamesLugo. Exclusive content, early access to new videos, other stuff that you guys definitely want to check out. It's, a whole bunch of extra content that I do for everybody. And also, you could find my articles over on Clownfish TV. I'm writing articles every single week. New reviews, new news posts, movie reviews, all types of stuff. I'm constantly sharing content all the time. There's a lot. If you're big into Star Wars, you're big into games, you're big into movies, I got you covered. Definitely show some love when you can.
Absolutely. And I'll vouch for it. I mean, like, as far as gaming news goes and everything, I just pretty much rely on you for any of that information, because honestly, to me, it's easier to just go directly to that one source where I know it's, if I'm hearing about some news, I go to your channel, it's there. Like, you're on your stuff. So I always appreciate those posts and everything. You're always posting good content. I look forward to it, and I always enjoy having you on this podcast. I like that we can kind of come together every time you're on here. We might have some hot takes, whatever, but it is what it is. We're just hitting our opinion, talking Star Wars, having some fun.
Yeah, the one thing I'm surprised we didn't talk about, because we talked about it briefly a while back, was the viral tweet that I had about Gray Jedi.
Oh, I know.
We're gonna have to talk about that another time, because that was an ordeal of reactions.
Yeah, that's an entire debate, actually, which your tweet proved.
Literally, it was the most popular tweet for like 3 days.
I gotta say too, and I'll lightly hit on it. The one that surprised me was like when people were like, "Well, weren't like Qui-Gon and Ahsoka gray Jedi?" And it's like, well, you need to like turn to the dark side, technically, like to
the way that it was explained to me, and from what I saw from like Retina's Holocron on his YouTube video, and I saw another person on TikTok actually break this down real good. Balance, the state of balance is light side. That's the natural state of things. Once the dark side gets used or comes into influence, that's a corruption of that balance. That's when you tip towards the dark side. But if things are in balance and you're not messing around with people, you're not being a jerk, you're not being at it for your own like selfish things, you're light side. There is no in between from there, because everything in its natural state and balance is light side. That's how it always goes. And when you use the dark side, when you use force lightning, when you corrupt people, when you try to choke people, you're tapping into the dark side. That's making you become more corrupt at your core, And the way, to me, that makes sense. And you know who also explained that really beautifully in a comicbook.com article? George Lucas himself. There's an interview that Retina's Holocron actually pulled up in his video that actually shows George Lucas talking about how the Force works. And it's literally like right there. But again,
are we sure he's a credible source for
Star Wars? Can we trust George Lucas to be credible about Star Wars lore? It's so... That's a whole, like I said, that's a whole other conversation, because a lot of the things that got brought up in that thread, if you ever take a look at it, or the quote tweets, a lot of the stuff brought up was really in bad faith and going to examples that were disproven by George Lucas and other people that were easily disproved, but people keep harping on it. It's like, This argument's never going to end. This debate's never going to end.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with George Lucas on this one.
That's how I felt. Exactly how I felt. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go trust this guy who created all this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna tell the guy who made it that he's wrong about what he made.
Right.
I love it. I love it. So that wraps up. I think this is might be episode 1 or 210 of Rule the Galaxy podcast. I think we're around that area. I know Joe's done some sideshows and everything, but this was a fun one. And I know that we have some friends across the pond who look forward to our episodes that we do together. I know I've seen that on Twitter. So shout out to those guys over. And I think it was one of our followers in London actually said he likes when we do our episodes together, chat gaming,
Nice.
chat
There you
movies
go.
overall.
Here's another banger for you.
Absolutely. We threw a lot into this one, and honestly, there's not much filler in it. It's all meat
Straight
and
up high
potatoes,
quality
baby.
good stuff.
I love it. So from D-Doc, from Jakejames, Lugo, we appreciate you guys listening to Rule the Galaxy podcast. And until next time, may the force be with you.
Ciao.